A professional boxer got into a car accident and flipped through a Danmei novel she had read before. According to the Danmei novel's plot, she had become the evil female supporting character. And soon her father would offer her as a gift to the main villain Sui Yuan, who was said to be a vicious and feared character. With a spell of dizziness, past memories flooded her mind. She was originally Yun Wan, a disciple of the He Huan Palace, born with a special crown constitution and a talent for dual cultivation. Anyone within 10 meters of her could gain cultivation power. If dual cultivating with her, one could achieve instant ascension. But she herself had no spiritual power, just a rookie in the cultivation world. Meanwhile, Yun Wan's special constitution and stunning beauty brought her endless troubles. Her own father deceived her into marrying the mysterious villain Sui Yuan. On her way to marriage, she suffered tragic abuse, becoming a man's plaything and starting her unfortunate life. After turning dark later, she used her crown constitution's special leakage setting. She could drain away all absorbed cultivation power like a bottomless pit, using this to take revenge on the men who abused her, making them lose all their cultivation. Right now, she had transmigrated to the moment before Yun Wan's marriage, with a man mumbling something to her. Junior sister, why suffer like this? You really think you can marry the one you love? Let me tell you the truth. This journey is to make you marry Sui Yuan. You know what kind of person he is? I'm sure you know how fearsome he is without me saying more. Rather than suffering with him in that dark place, you might as well submit to me. The man's hands started to become unruly. Watching the man's blatant provocation, Yunwan instinctively drew her sword from her waist and slashed. She domineeringly said 2 words, "Get lost." As blood dripped, the man felt a murderous aura. Looking down at his trembling hand, then he shamelessly shouted, "You dare harm a fellow disciple? Wait until I report to the master. See how he deals with you." After speaking, he ran away quickly. Yunwan looked at the room where she was confined, feeling everything around her was so unfamiliar. Looking at her faint reflection on the blade, this attire and face were so unbelievable. She had actually transmigrated, becoming the cultivation world's reborn Black Widow. Yunwan tried to control her emotions, thinking calmly that there was no way back now. Since becoming the evil supporting character was already a fact, she should think about how to defy fate and brave the cultivation world. After a car accident, she had transmigrated into an evil supporting character in a Danmei novel. Even with an excellent crown constitution, she couldn't overcome having a father who betrayed his daughter. Yun Wan was deceived by her birth father to marry the main villain Sui Yuan. On her wedding journey, she was confined in this room. To change her tragic ending, she decided to escape. She immediately removed her phoenix crown. Even if she had transmigrated into a tragic supporting character, she would still survive well. Voices were noisy outside the room. She had to leave before being discovered. Yunwan surveyed her surroundings and found a cloth bag in an inconspicuous corner. After opening it, a pile of things fell out. A crystal mirror, similar to modern phones, could be used for communication and spirit seals. Could be used to change appearance, including temporarily suppressing spiritual energy. It was equivalent to disguising oneself. The rest were just some personal clothes and temporary talismans, miscellaneous unimportant things. Lin Wan looked and couldn't help but complain. How miserable. Not even a decent life-saving artifact. She picked up the spirit seal and placed it on her forehead, directly disguising herself with a simple appearance. Better to blend into crowds and not be easily found. Just then, bustling sounds came from outside the stone door. The master said we can do whatever we want with the person inside. Tonight we'll let our brothers taste what a premium furnace is like. Yunwan didn't expect people to come so quickly. She hurriedly pulled out a talisman, constantly muttering, "Please be quick, take me anywhere." Just as the people outside were about to break down the door, the talisman in Yun Wan's hand was almost completely burned. Then a group of ill-intentioned people burst through the door and were stunned. What they saw was an empty room and scattered wedding decorations on the ground. Meanwhile, Yunwan was teleported to a forest. She walked aimlessly, unaware that danger was quietly approaching her. She was just a small cultivator, but possessed the supreme furnace constitution. At the same time, heaven had given Yun Wan a stunning appearance. The only flaw was that she had turned into a scheming supporting character. Yun Wan used the talisman to flash teleport into a deep mountain forest. She breathed a sigh of relief, finally escaping from her fellow disciples' clutches. After scanning the surroundings, it looked very eerie and frightening. Meanwhile, rustling sounds came from the forest, accompanying the quiet night. She was so scared that cold sweat flowed, then suddenly seemed to remember something. Linwan took out the crystal mirror artifact. She remembered in the original book, this was a platform for posting and accepting missions. This way, she could find a bodyguard. Just as she opened the crystal mirror, she saw all kinds of bizarre requests on it. Without delay, she posted a request for a powerful escort with generous payment to be discussed. Subsequently, the crystal mirror rippled and emitted a golden light. Your posted task has been accepted. The cultivator is on the way. Please wait patiently. It also included a map showing the distance between two people. Yunwan was overjoyed. This cultivation world's ride-hailing service was impressive, so she sat down and waited quietly. But as time passed, it felt like a century had gone by. She became increasingly irritated. What kind of cultivator was this? Only covering 20 kilometers after so long. Were they walking? She was waiting for rescue here. At this moment, a furry creature was watching her from afar. Its form stood majestically, with glowing red eyes. With one leap, it silently approached Yunwan, whom it considered prey. It hadn't hunted for a long time, drool dripping onto Yunwan's shoulder. The woman finally noticed and turned around. Seeing this huge creature, sudden panic made her limbs go numb. She froze in place. The creature let out a long howl to the sky, roaring to assert its dominance, and instantly pounced towards Yunwan. At this critical moment, the crystal mirror suddenly emitted a strong light, with a notification appearing. Your cultivator has arrived at the destination. A man appeared in the light. He grabbed Yunwan, who was sitting on the ground. Protecting her behind him, he drew his sword. His eyes fixed on the furry creature, exuding his full aura. He said one word, "Scram." The creature was so frightened it fled the scene. Afterward, Yunwan finally breathed a sigh of relief. She was saved at last. The man beside her turned to look at Yunwan, speaking with an icy tone. "Did you request the escort?" A woman stranded in deep mountains wanted to hire a bodyguard with generous payment, who knew the person she found, though incredibly powerful, was both poor and stingy. Seeing the handsome expert arrive, the woman enthusiastically introduced herself. "I'm Xiaowanwan. May I ask your name?" The man's expression revealed coldness. "I'm Xie Mingdingyun. Where do you need me to escort you?" This question caught Yunwan off guard. She thought she only focused on escaping, but hadn't considered where to go. Perhaps she should first find a powerful sect to become a disciple and learn some survival skills. Recalling from the original book, there was Kunlun in the south and Jingyue in the north, the two largest sects being Kunlun sect and Jingyue sect. Kunlun, as the leader of the four major sects besides sword cultivation and single cultivation, also covered talisman and spiritual cultivation. In contrast, Jingyue sect had the original owner's ill-fated relationship, better to avoid it. Having made up her mind, Yunwan looked at Xie Tingyun, expressing her wish to go to Kunlun, asking if he could escort her. After hearing this, he calmly replied that it was possible, but would cost extra. Yunwan smiled bitterly. She asked how much extra. Then Xie Tingyun swiftly waved his sleeve and took out a long sword. The sword floated in the air, suggesting she should ask it. Yunwan was attracted by this sword. She had never seen such an amazing weapon, so she curiously asked what the sword's name was. Xie Tingyun coldly answered, "Excellent sword." Hearing this, she awkwardly scratched her head, explaining, "I know it's an excellent sword. I'm asking for its name." Xie Tingyun still repeated, "Excellent sword." Before Yunwan could speak again, he quickly clarified, saying its common name was just Excellent Sword. Both were suddenly speechless, standing awkwardly until Yunwan took out 5 spirit stones, breaking the awkward situation, asking if Excellent Sword would go. After a pause, seeing no intention to move, Yunwan patiently increased the offer to 10 spirit stones. "These are all high-grade spirit stones from Sacred Spirit Mountain. Brother, please give me a break." Finally, Excellent Sword unsheathed. Seemingly moved by the offer, it emitted dense sword energy. With a swoosh, it flew to Yunwan's feet. Not moving, she looked at Xie Tingyun in confusion. He told her it meant for her to get on. Yunwan immediately understood. Without thinking, she lifted her leg and mounted it directly. She thoughtfully left space behind, gesturing for Xie Tingyun to come ride together. He was speechless, thinking this woman seemed not very bright. Then he sighed, grabbed Yunwan's clothes, and pulled her down. Xie Tingyun leaped up, and with a whoosh, the sword soared into the clouds. Yunwan held on tightly behind, afraid of falling off with one stumble. After a while, she dared to slowly open her eyes, amazed by the beautiful night scenery. She couldn't help but ask where this place was. Xie Tingyan turned back to examine her. You said you were stranded here, yet you don't even know this is Sacred Spirit Mountain? Faced with questioning, Yunwan's eyes darted around nervously, thinking to herself that she was kidnapped here. It's normal not to know. Seeing her reaction, Xie Tingyan didn't ask further. Just then, Yunwan couldn't help but exclaim how big the mountain was, asking when they would fly out. Xie Tingyan coldly replied, right now. Before Yunwan could react, she repeated, did you say right now? The expensive bodyguard turned out to be both poor and stingy. Even his excellent sword was without honor. 10 high-grade spirit stones only bought a temporary bodyguard, with the sword taking a 70-30 split, only providing 3/10 of the flight experience. The remaining 7 to 10 of the journey would be on foot. Xie Tingyan stated that flying directly to Kunlun's sect would cost extra. Thrown off by excellent sword, Yunwan rubbed her sore waist. Furious, she raised her middle finger and cursed him as a profiteer who might as well rob people. The literal-minded Xie Tingyan curiously asked what the gesture meant. Yunwan showed a professional fake smile, saying it meant care and concern. Xie Tingyan thought for a moment, then copied the gesture, saying he was returning the courtesy, adding, no need to be polite. Yunwan nearly coughed up blood in anger. Afterward, they began their journey to Kunlun on foot. Looking at the distance shown in the crystal mirror, they were still thousands of miles from their destination. After just 1 hour of walking, Yunwan was exhausted and sat down to rest. Not only was she hungry and tired, but the cold wind was piercing. Despite having supreme physical constitution, her body was still extremely weak. Looking at the unlit firewood before her, she finally couldn't bear it and asked Brother Xie if she could borrow some fire, as she was too cold. Xie Tingyun, leaning against a large tree, merely gave her a cold glance. After saying some strange words, he closed his eyes, telling Yunwan to comprehend it herself. The confused Yunwan pondered for a moment, thinking he was telling her to do something. She closed her eyes and followed suit. She sat cross-legged, clearing her mind of distractions, repeating what Xie Tingyun had said. Then, as if spiritual energy gathered around her, Yunwan's fingers moved along the firewood. Instantly, a fierce fire began burning. She succeeded, dancing with excitement while happily declaring she had learned the fire-starting technique. Xie Tingyan opened his eyes to look at the fire, seeming somewhat surprised. But he didn't say much, continuing to rest with closed eyes. Yunwan looked up at him, thinking that although the timing of this transmigration wasn't good, meeting this somewhat competent bodyguard wasn't so bad. She believed that with him around, she could safely reach Kunlun's sect. Just then her stomach started growling. Linwan got up to look for something to eat nearby, telling Brother Xie not to worry. She would get some wine. After much searching, she finally found some fruits. Just as she was feeling disappointed, she suddenly looked up and discovered a spirit spring in the forest. To her surprise, there was a man slowly removing his clothes, seemingly about to bathe in the spring. Under the moonlight, his smooth curves appeared strong and powerful, giving an immediate sense of security. At this breathtaking moment, Yunwan's traitorous stomach growled again. The man turned around, clearly having noticed something. Seeing that she had been discovered, she decided it would be best to run. Suddenly, there was a swooshing sound behind her, and a towering tree was instantly split in half. Lin Wan fell unexpectedly, scattering the fruits she was carrying. Meanwhile, a sharp sword was placed against her throat. If Yunwan moved even slightly, she would likely lose her life. She looked up to see a man with blue eyes and a high-bridged nose, wearing a long robe, an extremely handsome man. The woman must have offended some bad luck, just going to pick some fruits and encountering her ill-fated destiny. This Chu Ling was the person Yunwan trusted most in Yuan Shu, and she loved him deeply. Even when she ultimately lost her life due to Chu Ling's schemes, she still refused to believe he would betray her. This man loved all living beings, yet only failed Yunwan. He selflessly saved the 3 realms, yet only abandoned Yunwan to die. And now this newly transmigrated woman happened to catch Chu Lin bathing. With one careless moment, she had a sword at her throat. That wasn't all. A woman with a veiled face stood before them, looking like a wealthy young lady. She immediately accused Yunwan. Luo Itong, you woman, appearing here in the middle of the night, sneaking around to peek at my senior brother bathing. What are your intentions? Did you deliberately follow us here? Yunwan suddenly remembered. This person claimed to be Chu Lin's junior sister. That would make her the only daughter of the Jing-US sex leader, Qin Jian. So that's who it was, just like herself, another villainous female character who died early. After Yunwan understood the situation, she couldn't help but sigh. Woman, you can eat carelessly, but don't speak nonsense. I just happened to walk here by chance. What makes you think I'm a peeping Tom? Hearing her dare to question back, Xing Jian felt she needed to dominate her with presence. She spoke aggressively. What else could it be if not peeping? Yunwan remained calm despite the danger and said, since you insist on thinking that way, let me ask you, did your senior brother bathe? If it's as you say, did you see it with your own eyes? The superficial Qin Jian answered without thinking. Of course I saw it. I've been guarding from behind. Hearing this, Yunwan stared at her meaningfully and laughed. So you've just confessed? Qin Jian finally realized she'd been tricked. No longer concerned with arguing with Yunwan, she turned anxiously to explain to her senior brother that she wasn't what this ugly woman claimed, saying it was all slander and false accusations. At this moment, Qin Jian was completely flustered, not caring about dignity at all. Trembling with anger, she burst out cursing. In this wilderness, you're clearly not a decent person. Why else would you be here? You ugly creature. You're just coveting my master's beauty. Yunwan was also furious at being insulted. Though she was dirty all over, she said, I'd rather peek at my own bodyguard than care about this Chu Ling. Then she smiled and thought, you say I'm jealous of your master's looks? I might as well flirt with him right in front of you. Without waiting for their reaction, Yunwan threw herself into Chu Lin's arms. As she got up, she deliberately left a handprint. She teased, not that impressive. Your senior brother's body doesn't compare to my pretty boy at all. Hearing this, both of them froze in place. Even Chu Ling probably never expected anyone to speak to him so disrespectfully. I can't believe you ugly woman dare to provoke me openly. It'd kill you. After saying this, Qin Jian thrust her sword at Yunwan. At this critical moment, someone walked into the light, stating he was her pretty boy. He embraced Yunwan, putting on an affectionate expression. Qin Jian, not caring about anything else, maintained her murderous attitude. Anyone who dared offend her master was asking for trouble. She still insisted on taking Yunwan's life. Chu Lin couldn't take it anymore and stepped forward to say it was all a misunderstanding, hoping the newly arrived man wouldn't take offense. Then he turned and left. Xing Jian followed immediately, not slowing her pace, asking why they let them off so easily. Chu Lin explained that those two weren't worth worrying about, but the sword in that man's hand, if he wasn't mistaken, must be the most special of the 4 ancient swords, the Xiezhong sword. And rumor had it that its owner was someone who dared to brave wankuling alone at age 13. To this day, no one knows this person's true identity. They shouldn't cause trouble for themselves. He truly played the role of a miser perfectly. Even when helping Yunwan, he asked for 3 high-grade spirit stones. Men as honest in their dealings as him were rare. In the blink of an eye, day had broken. They passed through a place called Shushi City. As soon as they entered the city, Yunwan was attracted by the bustling scene before her. Suddenly, she noticed a crowd gathering around something, pointing and discussing. I heard the sect leader's adopted daughter not only wounded her fellow disciple, but also fled overnight. Who knows if it's true? Though this adopted daughter is truly beautiful. Curiosity killed the cat, but Yunwan couldn't help but push forward to see. What she saw shocked her instantly. The crowd was looking at her wanted poster. She suppressed her anger, clenched her fists, and gritted her teeth. As if the humiliation wasn't enough, the notice claimed she was adopted by her own father. It was infuriating. She happened to look up and saw 2 people trying to catch her, saying, looks like we won't catch that person anytime soon. We can only catch that demon ghost first and bring it back to the master and his daughter. Yunwan realized she couldn't stay long and should leave quickly. She turned to discuss with her bodyguard. Brother Xie, shall we get some supplies and leave this afternoon? What do you think? Xie Tingyun shook his head, saying today the ghost gates were open and travel wasn't advisable. When Yunwan heard about ghosts, she said she was terrified. Then let's find a place to stay for the night before leaving. After much searching, they finally found an inn, but were told only 1 room remained. This was because every year after mid-July, ghosts would come out to roam. Besides travelers, most rooms were reserved for sect disciples guarding the area. Yunwan slapped her forehead, wondering what to do. If even the city's largest inn was like this, other places surely had no rooms left. After much consideration, she could only look shyly at Xie Tingyun, stammering, Looks like we'll have to make do for one night, don't you think? After a while, seeing no reaction from him, Yunwan awkwardly continued, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to you." Xie Tingyan glanced at her, either genuinely not understanding or pretending not to. He casually asked, "What else would you do?" Yunwan was utterly speechless, wondering if he was truly innocent or just playing dumb. Later, led by the waiter, they entered the last available room. As the door creaked open, both froze. Looking at the room's only bed, she joked, "I was going to offer you the bed while I take the floor." But this man didn't stand on ceremony. Soon Yunwan was making a bed on the floor, determined to sleep there despite her pride. Exhausted from the past day and night, she quickly fell asleep. While in deep slumber, perhaps by instinct, Yunwan vaguely sensed someone approaching. She thought it must be a thief. She quickly rose and threw the blanket over the person, delivering 2 quick punches. Still not satisfied, she showed off her invincible boxing skills. Hearing the commotion, Xie Tingyan pulled back the curtain and casually reminded Yunwan, "Are you sure you're hitting a person? Could it be a ghost?" Upon hearing this, Yunwan's fighting spirit instantly vanished. Could brother Xie be right? She then slowly lifted the blanket with trembling hands. She wasn't seeing things. A marble-sized eyeball had rolled onto the floor. Looking up, the female ghost was asking, "Have you seen my eyeball?" By now, Yunwan was terrified. She hurriedly picked up the fallen object, trying to appease the ghost. Perhaps due to her nervousness, she fumbled the first attempt. She couldn't properly insert the eyeball into the ghost's eye socket. Seeing the panicked but polite ghost, Yunwan said, "It's okay, let's try again." The next second, this unfortunate soul used too much force and crushed the eyeball. Now, they were staring at each other. The atmosphere instantly froze. The female ghost seemed to have never encountered such a situation. She stood there stunned, looking at Yunwan with a bewildered expression. The woman had accidentally burst the delicate eyeball of this enchanting female ghost. Now what was once a pair of bright, watery eyes had suddenly become a one-eyed monster. Yunwan saw the female ghost staring at her with an ambiguous smile, making her whole body tingle. Goosebumps rose all over. Then, she could only look to Xie Tianming for help. But this man clearly wanted to watch the show, showing no intention of helping her at all. Yunwan suddenly recalled that previously, in the most critical moments, Xie Tingyun would always save her from danger, never abandoning her. Perhaps he was hinting that she should learn to face things independently. After all, to brave the immortal world, she would need to rely on herself. Suddenly inspired, Yunwan found courage from somewhere, daring to act confident before the female ghost, promising, "I'll fix your face. I'll definitely make it beautiful and bright." The female ghost was confused. "Who said I wanted you to fix it? I only have one eye left, and I can't risk you ruining it." Before she could finish, Yunwan forcefully dragged her to the dressing table. Though her cultivation wasn't great, she was quite strong. Seeing this, the female ghost stopped resisting. She was just curious about what Yunwan intended to do. Xie Tingyan also watched them puzzledly. Yunwan took out a high-grade spirit stone and handed it to the peerless sword. "Please help me shape this into an eyeball size." How absurd, the peerless sword thought. Never in its life had it received such a bizarre request, but it was curious too, about what this woman was planning to do. Finally, a crystal-clear, unique eyeball was created. Yunwan excitedly held the eyeball, comparing it against the ghost's face. Perfect. The peerless sword carved it just right. Not too big, not too small. Then, she carefully placed a new eyeball into the ghost's eye socket. After the features settled, Yunwan couldn't help but praise. Such natural beauty, and such an enchanting aura. It just needs a finishing touch. Afterward, she styled the ghost's hair into a red palace bun, restoring her to a beauty that could topple nations. Yunwan completed her work. She asked the female ghost to look at herself in the mirror. "Are you satisfied?" After examining herself, though the ghost didn't say anything, her eyes revealed her satisfaction. "You're quite brave for a mortal. Aren't you afraid of me?" At this question, Yunwan responded honestly, "I am scared. Otherwise, why would I try so hard to please you?" The female ghost smiled, looking at Xie Tingyun beside them. "Is that man your husband? He's quite handsome." Yunwan was clearly embarrassed by the word husband, blushing and nervously denying it. The female ghost seemed more interested now, deliberately leaning closer to say, "Then he must be your lover." A xiaoguan is actually a man who makes money by selling his looks, similar to a male prostitute. After hearing this, Yunwan couldn't help help but imagine a pretty boy turning into a xiaowan. The mental image was too beautiful to bear looking at. At this moment, the female ghost spoke in a lazy tone. I originally planned to take advantage of the ghost gate's opening to drain men's essence, but since we get along so well today, let's forget about that. Then she took out a golden pill. Since you're so skilled, I have several brothers and sisters who need eyes. Please make some more. This will be your payment. Let me tell you secretly, this golden pill can make men stronger. I don't usually give it to just anyone. Yunwan heard this and waved her hands repeatedly, politely declining. My man is fine really, there's no need. The ghost smiled mischievously, trying to force it on her. Take it. If you're too polite, sister will kill you. While refusing, Yunwan explained that one eyeball requires one high-grade spirit stone. The cost was quite high, and she wasn't sure she could manage it. The female ghost immediately understood and generously tossed out a bag of spirit stones. Is this enough? Yunwan paused, her eyes gleaming as she looked at the bag. Unable to contain her joy, she quickly said it was enough. The woman had grown bolder, daring to do business with a ghost. As she put it, fortune favors the brave. Humans can overcome destiny. The ghost left a large bag of spirit stones, informing them the ghost gate would close at dawn. You need to work quickly, she said before disappearing. Yunwan was blinded by profit, throwing caution to the wind. Money was the priority. Moreover, these were high-grade spirit stones, which were extremely rare and precious. At this time, Yunwan saw Xie Tingyun still standing motionless and urged him to come help. The peerless sword was waiting to carve eyeballs. Seeing the woman bewitched, Xie Tingyun kindly reminded her that in all 6 realms, evil ghosts were the least trustworthy. But Yunwan dismissed this, saying in business, success and failure were always 50-50. Besides, even if I'm tricked by ghosts, don't I still have you? Men seem to fall for this approach. Who isn't a baby that can be easily coaxed? Then the two of them, plus the peerless sword, worked frantically. After preparing everything, they went to the agreed meeting place. Looking at the eerie environment, Yunwan couldn't help but tremble in fear. Xie Tingyun looked down at her. Are you scared? Though it was obvious, Yunwan still stubbornly denied it. Sister Ghost Yin, since she invited us here, she must have notified her ghost subordinates. What do I have to fear? Xie Tingyun smiled silently, thinking about that ghost Yin. She could steal spirit stones without alerting anyone, showing her powerful abilities. Yet this woman had managed to pin down such a formidable female ghost and beat her up. That was truly incredible. At this moment, Ghost Yin appeared with a group of one-eyed monsters without eyes. Everyone had arrived. We can start anytime. Yunwan seemed hesitant and whispered in Xie Tingyun's ear. Later, I'll sell the goods, you collect the money. If any female ghost tries to take advantage of you, just give them a little scare. Just don't kill them. After the instructions, she began welcoming the little ghosts to do business. Line up, one by one. Everyone will get their turn. The first 2 ghosts who had their eyes installed were very satisfied and started promoting with a crystal mirror. Then messages started flooding in like bullet comments. Which sex disciple dares to do business with ghosts? Such talent. Holy DJ, those spirit stones are the ones I lost. Oh my god, are those demons okay? They dare to come out dancing. I must catch them. Does anyone know their location? Come on, what's the big deal? They're at Water Spirit behind Shushi City. Thank you, friend. No need for thanks. Seeing these messages, the 2 little ghosts started panicking. Not good. Ghost feared Yu Wuya is coming to turn our world upside down. Run quickly. Yunwan watched the demons scatter and flee, still processing everything. The name Yu Wuya seemed familiar. Before she could recall, Xie Tingyun grabbed her collar and pulled her away. But before they could get far, a sword beam cut off their escape route. Approaching them was a man wearing an eye patch, his face cold, speaking without any kindness. Hand over all your money. These damned little ghosts actually dared to do such mischief. Now look what happened. They accidentally attracted ghost-feared Yu Wuya with the crystal mirror. They ran away in a flash, leaving Yunwan and Xie Tianyun in a terrible situation. Yu Wuya, wearing an eye patch on his left eye, held his sword, clearly with ill intentions. He started with, I'm robbing you. Hand over the money quickly. Yunwan was breathless from the powerful spiritual energy emanating from his sword. She instinctively hid behind the pretty boy seeking protection, then pretended to be confused. Hand over what? Yu Wuya raised an eyebrow, looking more fierce. All the money. Now with someone backing her up, Yunwan spoke more boldly. To hell with all the money. I earned it with my own abilities. Why should I give it all to you? Yu Wuya believed he was acting on heaven's behalf. In all 6 realms, only demons harm the living. You're disciples of the righteous path. Yet not only do you fail to protect against evil, you collude with demons and show no remorse. Yunwan saw this guy was trying to take advantage of the situation. He clearly wasn't planning to let them go. She poked Xie Tianyun's shoulder. Brother Xie. At this moment, Xie Tianyun remained calm, his gaze fixed on the sword in Yu Wuya's hand. That was the legendary ancient divine sword, named Qieying. Its blade like rock, its sheath like a tiger. It was said that even a small sword energy could make demons' souls scatter, never to reincarnate again. Realizing this, he knew he'd met a formidable opponent. He took a deep breath to calm himself. After a moment of silence, Xie Tingyun finally spoke. I am Princess Sui Yuan of Kangwu Palace, and your master Xianqing was an old friend. By rights, you should call me senior. I don't want to quibble with youngsters like you. Let's part ways here. What do you say? Upon hearing this, there was complete silence. What nonsense are you talking about? Not only Yu Wuya, but even Yunwan thought this boast was too outrageous. Who was Sui Yuan? He was a walking legend in the cultivation world. Born with a sword cultivator's physique, reaching core formation at birth, a genius who achieved tribulation at 200 years old. Even the opposing demon path would add an honorific when mentioning Sui Yuan. Yu Wuya sighed. I've seen show-offs before, but never one like this. He then sneered. If you say you're Sui Yuan, then you must have an extraordinary sword. If you can draw your sword, I'll believe you. The surroundings fell silent again, as if waiting to see Xie Tianming make a fool of himself. Yunwan grew impatient and couldn't help but poke his arm. Even if I believe what you say, why don't you just draw your sword? Show Yu Wuya what you've got. Xie Tingyun calmly said with steady eyes, draw bamboo out. Yunwan was confused. What did draw bamboo out mean? I'm waiting for you to save us, brother. What kind of joke is this? Yu Wuya burst into laughter at the scene. Sui Yuan has been in seclusion for 100 years. You think you can impersonate him with that fake sword? Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being merciless. With that, he showed off his Qin treasure sword again, with an air of wanting to crush them. Suddenly, Yunwan's heart jumped in shock. She finally remembered that Yu Wuya was Sui Yuan's #1 fan in the original book. Now that Xie Tingyun had angered him, they were surely doomed. With her heart in her throat, Yunwan anxiously asked, what are your chances of beating him? Xie Tingyun replied calmly, 100%. She finally felt relieved. How so? The usually pretty-faced boss wouldn't be such a rookie. How could he easily admit defeat? However, the face-slapping came quickly. Xie Tingyun added, 100% chance that I will lose. Hearing this, Yunwan was so angry she wanted to spit blood in his face. You used the most confident tone to say the most cowardly words. You're truly something. She glanced at Yu Wuya. In the original book, he was someone who could match the male lead in strength. There was no way they could win against him now. In her dilemma, Yunwan suddenly remembered the golden pill that Sister Yen Gui had given her. She said it was something that could make men stronger. So she decisively took out the golden pill and gave it to Xie Tianming. This thing, even if we can't win, if it helps us escape, that would be good. Before the medicine could take effect, a strange mist arose in the forest, quickly enveloping the entire area. Before Yunwan could understand what was happening, she vaguely heard someone calling their names. Looking up at the voice, wasn't it Sister Yen Gui? Yen Gui's soft body was nimbly wrapped around a tree branch. With a coy smile, she whispered, quick, go now. My illusion tree won't last long. If you don't leave now, it'll be too late. When Yunwan realized this, she pulled out a teleportation talisman while grabbing Xie Tingyun. Reciting the spell, they vanished from the forest. When Yu Wuya slashed through the illusion tree, he only caught a glimpse of their departing figures. Angrily, he coldly uttered the word despicable. The teleportation talisman randomly transported them to a cave that showed signs of previous habitation. Before Yunwan could survey their surroundings, she heard Xie Tingyun making heavy groaning sounds, breathing heavily and swaying unsteadily. He could barely stand and kept saying he felt hot. Yunwan hurried to support him. The moment her hand touched Xie Tingyun's skin, she felt a burning heat. Xie Tingyun's eyes were unfocused, his face extremely red. Something seemed very wrong with him. In her urgency, Yunwan took out the golden pill Sister Yen Gui had given her. Somewhat reluctantly, she gave it to Xie Tingyun to swallow. She asked expectantly, do you feel your power increasing? Xie Tingyun replied expressionlessly and coldly, "Nothing's changed." This greatly disappointed Yunwan. Such a precious golden pill. How could it have no effect? In an instant, they were transported to a cave by the talisman. There seemed to be signs that someone had lived there before. Xie Tingyun suddenly seemed very unwell, his face extremely red, and he was breathing heavily. He was swaying, looking like he might fall at any moment. Seeing this, Yunwan hurriedly went to support him. As soon as she touched his skin, "What's wrong? Why are you so hot?" Xie Tingyun was very uncomfortable, his breathing completely irregular. He kept pulling at his collar, trying to cool down. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. After a while, seeing no improvement, he sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to meditate. Yunwan carefully approached Xie Tingyun, asking if the golden pill was working, how he felt, and if his cultivation had improved. Xie Tingyun wasn't doing well, feeling severe pain in his lower abdomen. Holding his stomach and enduring the pain, he asked who gave her the golden pill. Yunwan, not yet realizing the severity of the situation, casually replied that it was from Sister Yen Gui. At this moment, the air suddenly froze. Xie Tingyun was at a loss for words. Seeing his flushed red face, Yunwan finally realized with shock. No wonder Sister Yen Gui had that expression back then. She told me it was medicine to make men stronger, but what she really meant was the golden pill wasn't for increasing cultivation, but rather an aphrodisiac. Yunwan was completely panicked. Oh no, she had made a terrible mistake. She felt extremely guilty, looking anxiously at the man. "Let me explain. I thought it was just a treasure to increase cultivation power. That's why I gave it to you." Xie Tingyun struggled to maintain control, trying to stay calm, and slowly said, "If you don't want anything to happen, leave quickly. The longer you wait, the stronger the pill's effects will become." Yunwan kept looking back as she left, seeing his suffering. She felt terrible inside. The cave was in an extremely mean location, damp and cold. Yet he kept saying he felt hot. This kind of suffering was unbearable for ordinary people. After leaving the cave worriedly, Yunwan used her newly learned fire technique to light a bonfire outside, hoping the light would let Xie Tianyin know she was there. She wanted to help Xie Tianyin, but with this body. The original book recorded it as having a Black Widow constitution with a fatal flaw. If she got slightly excited and lost control, she would drain the other person's cultivation power, causing death. Though it could be controlled later, the specific method wasn't mentioned. Yunwan thought if she could control it a little, there shouldn't be any major problems, right? Besides, she couldn't let Xie Tianyin suffer for her mistake. At this point, if he forcefully suppressed the medicine's effects, at best he'd lose all his cultivation, at worst he'd lose his life. When Xie Tingyun noticed movement, his hazy eyes saw that woman had returned. She appeared shy and hesitant. She even said, "Why don't we make do for now?" He clearly understood the meaning behind those words. Xie Tingyun accidentally took Yen Gui's golden pill, causing his whole body to burn with restlessness, as if his internal organs were on fire. Even after meditation, he still felt hot. This feeling was like having his bones and flesh consumed by flames. Thinking back, if it weren't for failing the lightning tribulation, which led to his lost cultivation and damaged golden core, he wouldn't have become so weak in spiritual power. More ridiculous was that his proud supreme sword not only refused to be drawn, but had to be carried. If not for its spiritual energy that could intimidate demons, he would have discarded it long ago. Xie Tingyun grew more frustrated thinking how other people's swords all pleased their masters. This supreme sword was quite something. Every time he wanted to draw it, he had to give up some of his cultivation power. Because of this, he had fallen so low that he couldn't even afford travel expenses for a centipede, and had to earn money as others' bodyguard. Lost in these thoughts, the weakened Xie Tingyun had no way to expel the medicine's effects. Helplessly, he saw the woman who had left earlier return. Yunwan, blushing, shyly said, "Look, things are already like this. Why don't we make do?" They both understood the implied meaning. Xie Tingyun turned away, refusing to look at her. Though about to lose his reason, he still insisted, "You don't need to sacrifice yourself." Though Yunwan was a novice in the cultivation world, she knew something about these matters. Forcefully suppressing the medicine's effects would be life-threatening. Seeing the man showing no signs of cooperation, she thought, "What now?" Maybe I should just take action. Just then, Xie Tingyun suddenly frowned, crying out in pain, blood appearing at his lips. His hands involuntarily clutched at his clothes. It seemed the situation was urgent. Yunwan hesitated no longer and began to act. She untied her hair ribbon and walked step by step toward the man. She covered his eyes with the ribbon and softly whispered, "Xie Tingyun, don't worry, I'll save you." As the medicine took effect, the man lost control and pulled Yunwan into his embrace. She found Xie Tingyun's body burning hot, completely opposite to her own temperature. Yunwan removed his clothes, revealing his 8-pack abs. Then she placed her hands on Xie Tingyun's chest and began circulating spiritual energy. Although her original self had been taught various theoretical knowledge since childhood, she had never actually practiced with anyone, so she could only try her luck. Soon, spiritual energy emanating from Yunwan slowly filled the entire cave. This spiritual energy was different from high-grade spirit stones. It was more pure, and even the supreme sword in the corner caught this rare essence. During their energy circulation, it couldn't resist sneaking forward to take a few breaths. Yunwan found it strange that she couldn't sense any flowing spiritual energy in Xie Tingyun's body. While hesitating, she was held tighter, and Xie Tingyun called her name, Wan hoarsely, repeating it over and over. Morning sunlight filled the cave. Yunwan got up, looking at the still sleeping Xie Tingyun. After finding water, she slowly wiped his body. She couldn't help but sigh, exhausted from the night, and gained nothing good from it. Xie Tingyun watched the woman lost in thought, grabbed her wrist, his eyes no longer hazy like yesterday, but now bright and clear. Yunwan avoided his gaze, hurriedly sitting aside, thinking, what do people usually say after spending a night together? Damn, I have no experience in this. Clearly feeling awkward, she made an excuse about finding food and quickly left. Xie Tingyun wanted to call out to her, but hesitated, thinking back on recent events, finding them all quite absurd. Even the usually proud supreme sword came floating over to show goodwill. It kept rubbing and nuzzling against him continuously. Xie Tingyun knew that such sudden affection must have a reason. There could be only one possibility. Sure enough, with a slight circulation of energy, he felt spiritual energy flowing within him. Even his damaged golden core had healed. Amazed, Xie Tingyun picked up the supreme sword to test it. Surprisingly, the sword actually allowed him to draw it. Could this be a blessing in disguise? When the medicine took effect, his remaining consciousness was about to fade away. Yet even so, to preserve his dignity, Xie Tingyun chose to resist until death. But he seemed to forget that no one can escape the law of truth. Faced with a woman's selfless use of spiritual energy to save his life, Xie Tingyun had tearfully called Wan all night. When they opened their eyes again, their gazes had subtly changed. Xie Tingyun felt a trace of spiritual energy flowing within him. His shattered golden core had miraculously healed. Even his lost cultivation was slowly returning. Looking at the ribbon in his hand, it seemed all credit should go to Yunwan. He sat in meditation, resting with closed eyes. After half an hour, a familiar voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. It was Yunwan, stumbling over with a bowl of dark cuisine. It emitted a slightly fishy smell, with a thin layer of oil floating on top. Xie Tingyun had long since transcended the need for food and had no interest in meat. But seeing the woman's kind expression, he couldn't refuse. He leaned closer and frowned, asking what it was. Yunwan explained that knowing he had a tough night, she specially hunted some food to help restore his strength. This was a nourishing soup made from food she had exhaustively hunted. Taking the dark cuisine, Xie Tingyun thought that although he had lost control yesterday, it didn't mean he had completely forgotten. He had expected a young lady to be shy and hesitant, but surprisingly, she went hunting early in the morning to nourish him. With complex thoughts, Xie Tingyun couldn't find a reason to refuse, so he took a small sip, accepting Yunwan's kindness. Unexpectedly, the fishy taste instantly hit his throat, lingering on his taste buds. His Adam's apple bobbed as he forcefully suppressed the urge to vomit. I must know what soup this is, it's so delicious. Yunwan excitedly said, It's deer soup. Xie Tingyun, near breakdown, asked, What kind of deer? Yunwan pondered for a while, unable to find the right words to describe it. She could only pick up a stone from the ground and roughly drew it, saying, Look, it looks like this. Don't worry, it's definitely not poisonous. I even tested it on fish. After eating it, they were all lively and energetic. After a moment of silence, Xie Tingyun uneasily said, This beast is called Shirchua. Its internal organs are made of teeth, and it has only one weak spot in its entire body. So, You made soup from that part? Yun Wan froze, speaking innocently and stuttering that it was deer penis, saying the old saying, "You are what you eat." How clever of me. But seeing Xie Tingyun's silence, she realized she had made another mistake. Oh no, I should have caught rabbits instead. Whether you're hungry or not, there's a kind of hunger that Yun Wan thinks you have. She had worked hard to chase the deer, carefully made it into a nourishing soup, and offered it with both hands. But good intentions led to bad results. And thus, Xie Tingyun tasted the delicacy of dark cuisine. The feeling was indescribably wonderful. Yun Wan scratched her head in confusion, then took out a high-grade spirit stone from her storage bag and handed it over. Eat this instead. Xie Tingyun glanced at it puzzled. Wasn't your storage bag stolen by you Weiyao last time? How do you still have it? Yun Wan chuckled, explaining that what was lost was the demon's storage bag. Seeing their panic, I was clever enough to split the earned money in half. But everything happened so suddenly, I couldn't sort through it all, only keeping some high-grade snacks and protective medicines. Then she sighed. It's a pity about those bags, though. They were full of copper coins I couldn't take. Seeing this, Xie Tingyun subtly smiled, and under Yun Wan's gaze, drank the entire bowl of nourishing soup in one go. His eyes suggested, keep the high-grade snacks for yourself to restore your strength. Hearing this, Yun Wan's cheeks instantly burned hot, and she tried to escape his gaze. But Xie Tingyun firmly grabbed her arm, his tone gentler than usual. You're so clumsy you got hurt just catching a deer. Where do you think you're going? Yun Wan dismissed it. I'm not hurt at all. I knocked out that deer with one punch. Xie Tingyun smiled meaningfully, pointing, look at yourself. Your clothes are covered in dust, and your arms are black and blue. After examining herself, Yun Wan suddenly remembered something. Avoiding his gaze, she complained, it's your fault for being so rough last night. Indeed, if you're not embarrassed, others will be. Now the pressure was on Xie Tingyun, who coughed lightly with a red face. Quickly changing the subject, weren't you planning to study at Kunlun's sect? You should improve your cultivation now. But Yun Wan thought the high-grade snacks in her bag were worth a lot of money, and it would be wasteful to eat them herself. Better to save them for him. Xie Tingyun advised, if you want to study at Kunlun's sect, even as an outer disciple, you need to reach mid-stage qi cultivation. With your current abilities, you probably can't even pass the first test. Listen to me and try eating the high-grade snacks. Yun Wan found this reasoning sound and hesitated no more. She sat in meditation and absorbed the spirit stone's energy into her body. This was her first time consuming a spirit stone, and it felt very different. A cool sensation flowed through her meridians. But that was it. After circulating through her body, the spiritual energy seemed to leak out, dispersing into the air like mist. Yun Wan could only smile awkwardly. How could it leak? What kind of weird setting is this? Yun Wan discovered leakage on her first attempt at spiritual refinement. She looked utterly hopeless. This was so unfair. She only remembered the book mentioning energy leakage during dual cultivation, but nothing about consumed energy leaking out too. Xie Tingyun had never seen this situation before, so he suggested they press their palms together. Let me try transferring some spiritual power to you. During the process, Yun Wan couldn't help but notice how much larger his hand was compared to hers. Though she had to admit, it felt quite reassuring. But shortly after, she found herself leaking again. With this useless constitution, Yun Wan was on the verge of crying. At this rate, how could she ever succeed in cultivation? Xie Tingyun had noticed since last night that her constitution was unusual. For tribulation stage cultivators, a mere thread of true qi could equal centuries of cultivation, let alone Xie Tingyun being of the purest yang essence. Even a casual bit of his power could help others reach breakthrough in qi cultivation. But when he transferred true qi to Yun Wan, it had no effect at all. It simply went in and leaked out just the same. Simply put, Yun Wan wasn't suited for cultivation. She had an innate vessel constitution, destined to be merely a vessel for others to use. Xie Tingyun's mood sank as he asked, do you believe in fate? Yun Wan shook her head, saying if that's how it is. Let me tell you, the 6 realms are governed by qi. Spirit merges with qi, qi merges with truth, true qi combines. Only then can all return to one. To achieve ascension, the first step is qi cultivation. Some are born qi masters, effortlessly, reaching the state of human qi unity. Yet others cultivate for centuries and still can't break through. Do you remember how you fought the ghost that day? Yun Wan was confused by the sudden question. I just used my fist, what else? Xie Tingyun spoke calmly. That ghost was no ordinary being. Do you really think your mere strength could hurt it? Yun Wan recalled she was just very angry, and threw random punches. He paused, implying there was more to it. Xie Tingyun nodded. It's exactly what you think. Others draw qi into their bodies, but you embody qi itself. When qi merges with the body and flows freely, none can approach you. Yunwan was startled. You mean body cultivation? Can that really lead to ascension? Hearing her hesitation, Xie Tingyun confidently replied, why not? If the heavenly way won't let you become immortal, just punch through those gates. Who would dare stop you? Yunwan thought carefully and felt his words made some sense. Though this body seemed delicate, it had incredible recovery power. Even after dual cultivation with Xie Tingyun for 2 days and nights, she recovered completely after one night's sleep and could run around energetically. Though body cultivation might be too straightforward, but looking at it differently, this could be perfect for martial arts training. Though born with a vessel constitution, destined to be merely a tool for others to use, Yunwan refused to accept fate. Though her qi might leak, she was indeed promising at martial arts. Right now, the most urgent matters were making money and increasing cultivation. They didn't even have fare to Kunlun's sect. Yunwan had studied ways to make money. Ordinary cultivators would mine spirit stones and refine them into sword-forging stones to sell to the foolish, cash-strapped sword sect. But with her weak constitution, mining wasn't suitable. Taking tasks through Lioli Net would be more profitable. Yunwan had observed that many individuals posted various tasks daily on Lioli Net. The tasks weren't difficult, and no sect had discovered this business opportunity yet. She could profit from the price difference by accepting and reselling tasks. Xie Tingyun glanced at the ridiculous tasks Yunwan accepted, escorting elderly ladies home, killing chickens for neighbors, even hiring people to cry at funerals. This won't work, Xie Tingyun thought. Any cultivator with sense wouldn't take such low-paying jobs. If you want spirit stones, I'll go mining tomorrow. Yunwan made a coy expression, saying sweetly, just wait and see if it works. Xie Tingyun sighed helplessly. One really can't reason with women. They waited until sunset, but no one took any tasks. Xie Tingyun said calmly, rather than these small schemes, we should just travel steadily. If necessary, I'll work harder and take more jobs on Lioli Net. That's better than both of us sitting here. Seeing Yunwan's silence, he stood up to do something. If no one takes the tasks, we'll face double compensation. Clearly, we're both broke. Unwilling to give up, Yunwan grabbed his clothes and began acting cute. Wait a bit longer. Mid-sentence, she spotted a figure flying on a sword in the distance, landing smoothly. The man flipped his hair and asked, fellow cultivator, do you have any tasks? Xie Tingyun was amazed. Someone actually came to take tasks. Containing her joy, Yunwan said, yes, I posted the tasks. The man's eyes lit up with gold light, pointing at Lioli Net and asking, it says the first person to accept gets spirit stones. Is that true? Yunwan nodded, absolutely genuine, and pulled out a beautiful spirit stone from her storage bag. It felt like self-promotion. Though the spirit stone wasn't very pure, it would make a beautiful decoration. The naive man's wife noticed they had no proper decorations. Looking at the spirit stone in Yunwan's hand, her eyes sparkled. So if I take the task and complete it, the spirit stone is mine, right? Seeing their eagerness, Yunwan thought to make some extra profit. Playing hard to get, she shook her head. You don't quite meet my requirements. The man was stunned. Xie Tingyun was also confused. How could she be so unfair? Yunwan held up 5 fingers. You need to complete 5 tasks to get the spirit stones. Taking just one won't do. Seeing their hesitation, Yunwan tempted them with the spirit stone again. All tasks are along the same route. If you take multiple tasks, I'll give you 30 spirit stones plus a reward. If you complete them early, I might even add an extra one. How's that for a deal? The man nearly jumped with excitement, eagerly patting his chest, saying, I'll take them all. Quickly send me the tasks. He acted as if afraid someone would snatch them away. He then flew off with his wife, promising to complete the tasks before dawn. Xie Tingyun was captivated by Yunwan's business acumen. If he had known this way to make money, he wouldn't have suffered walking down that tall mountain for 7 days and nights. Yunwan nudged Xie Tingyun with her arm. See how amazing I am? Praise me. If I'm happy, I might tell you my money-making secrets. Xie Tingyun lowered his head to hide his emotions, still maintaining his dignity. Say it if you want to. Yunwan smiled mischievously, seeing through him. She coughed lightly and said, from my observation, wealthy cultivators wouldn't care for such small money. And sword cultivators tend to be poor due to their training expenses. On Lioli Net, they'll take any task for money, never checking the price. They're even more eager with small tips. Xie Tianyin started to defend himself, saying he wasn't like that. Before he could finish, Yunwan covered his mouth. I know you're the Kangwu Palace princess. Fearing his awkwardness would show, she quickly silenced the loose-lipped bodyguard. As their eyes met, the atmosphere became somewhat ambiguous. Xie Tianyun's defenses crumbled. Her palms seemed to have an indescribable fragrance. Yunwan's heart fluttered. How could he be so handsome? Her heart began racing. Blushing, Yunwan picked up a branch from the ground. Let me calculate again. How much we earned today? Xie Tianyun, also embarrassed, unconsciously took out his handkerchief and began wiping his precious sword. This action made the sword uncomfortable. It was the first time receiving such treatment since following its master. Xie Tianyun kept stealing glances at Yunwan crouching on the ground. Looking at the gentleness in her reddened cheeks, he became lost in thought. By evening, the man they had exploited kept his promise and appeared before them. Yunwan was surprised by his punctuality and quickly handed over his payment. The man was straightforward, saying he could be found patrolling in Xiaqing if needed again. Yunwan froze, pondering. This name seemed so familiar. Suddenly inspired, she enthusiastically invited Li Xuanyo to stay for a meal. That would be great. Li Xuanyo admitted shamefully he hadn't eaten for 3 days. Though cultivators don't rely much on food, going too long without eating still causes hunger. Hearing this, Yunwan generously handed over all the fruits from her bundle. Please enjoy yourself. Li Xuanyu was overwhelmed. As a poor cultivator, he had never received such treatment. He thought he had met truly kind people today. Little did he know how treacherous people could be. Xie Tianyun had seen through everything, but was curious about her ultimate goal. Yunwan secretly took out her Liuli mirror, searching for something. Soon she excitedly called Xie Tianyun over to look. It turned out that when posting tasks earlier, Yunwan had seen a message from someone claiming to be a junior disciple searching for Li Xuanyo. The Liuli mirror listed a clear price, a reward of 50 spirit stones for finding him. Xie Tianyun frowned. Just be honest for once. Aren't you satisfied with just profiting from price differences? Now you're selling people too? One is a fool who helps count money for those who deceive him. One was unethical, selling people for money. Linwan discovered that Li Xuanyo, who was eating right in front of them, had a price tag on the Liuli mirror, worth a full 50 high-grade spirit stones. She decisively contacted the other party. The person you're looking for is with me. If you're quick about it, we can make an exchange money for person. The other party claimed that their senior brother Li Xuanyo had disappeared 3 days after descending the mountain, and the little bastard had also taken off with their hard-earned refinement stones. Are you telling the truth? You're not trying to scam the reward, are you? Yunwan remembered the Liuli mirror had an image-sharing function that could transmit pictures back and forth. Without hesitation, she secretly took a picture of Li Xuanyo eating and sent it to them for confirmation. The person looked carefully and confirmed it was indeed their damned senior brother. They immediately perked up. I can't thank you enough, friend. However, they were currently in Diyun City and couldn't arrive until tomorrow. They asked for patience and promised the reward was negotiable. Finding it troublesome, Yunwan suggested delivering him directly for revenge, asking for 80 high-grade spirit stones. Though suspicious, the other party agreed after seeing her confident guarantee. They quickly reached an agreement. Yunwan, with a mischievous smile, approached Li Xuanyo and asked if he was full, mentioning she had an escort job if he was interested. Li Xuanyo wiped his mouth, expressing his gratitude for her care, surprised to find such kindness in the treacherous cultivation world. To meet someone with such a kind heart, touched and relieved, he said he'd take not just one escort job, but several if offered. Yunwan acted mysterious. I need to go to Diyun City tomorrow. The road is dangerous, so I need an escort. Since we get along, would you accompany me? We can discuss the payment later. Coincidentally, Li Xinyu also needed to go to Diyun City. He excitedly slapped his thigh. He claimed to value loyalty above all else, and since they were heading the same way, talking about money would only hurt their friendship. Yunwan could barely contain her smile, thinking how she'd used 10 spirit stones to lure him to Diyun City, and would get 80 spirit stones as reward. Now it was even better, no expenses and pure profit for travel costs. Perhaps feeling guilty, Yunwan offered to catch some fish from the river for him. Li Xianyu was too moved for words. Since leaving the mountain, he'd been living rough. His previous job had resulted in losing all his possessions to a scam, but now he'd finally met good people. Xie Tingyan finally spoke up. He observed that Li Xuanyo, though tall and strong, seemed simple-minded and not very bright. Despite being scammed of everything, he still spoke well of others. Even Xie Tingyun, with his stone-cold heart, felt some sympathy. In other words, his conscience was hurting. He then said flatly, suggesting him to leave. Li Xinyu finally noticed someone else was there. After glancing over, his attention fixed on the supreme sword. "Friend, are you perhaps also a sword cultivator?" He nodded. "What a coincidence, I'm also a sword cultivator. Do you know my sword's name? It's with me every day, like a wife. One body fighting across 3,000 miles. One sword once blocked 1,000,000 corpses. So, I named my sword." Xie Tingyun, not wanting to hear more nonsense, interrupted. "It's called 1,000 miles, right?" Li Xinyu paused. "Mine is called Million." They fell silent. Li Xinyu changed the subject. "What's your sword's name?" Xie Tingyun coldly replied, "Supreme Sword." "I know it's a supreme sword, but what's its name?" "Its name is Supreme Sword." The cold and taciturn Xie Tingyun, feeling guilty, wanted to persuade the simple-minded fool to leave quickly. But Li Xinyu not only didn't appreciate it, he thought that as fellow sword cultivators, the other was trying to steal his business. Xie Tingyun was stunned, not expecting such a bizarre thought from him. He wanted to say more, but suddenly the Lioli mirror sent a notification. "Met kind people today. They not only provided food but also introduced work. Though the lady has poor taste, that despicable cultivator beside her has nothing going for him except his looks." Li Xinyu didn't know that his message to Yun Wan was fully visible to Xie Tingyun. No good deed goes unpunished. He shook his head and gave up trying to persuade him. The next day, they decided to fly to Diyun City by sword. Li Xinyu summoned his sword beneath his feet, but just as he was about to reach for Yun Wan, Xie Tingyun coldly refused. Like a jealous lover, he pulled Yun Wan into his arms, declaring, "She's my person. If anyone's taking her, it's me." After speaking, Xie Tingyun commanded the supreme sword to stop at his feet, and without another word, held Yun Wan's waist as they rose into the air. Their ethereal figures stunned Li Xinyu, who couldn't help but feel envious. However, the coolness lasted barely 3 seconds. As soon as the supreme sword's usage fee expired, it swiftly departed, causing them to fall unexpectedly from midair. Fortunately, Xie Tingyun was used to this and managed to land smoothly with Yun Wan. He calmly looked at Li Xinyu and asked if his sword could hold 3 people. Li Xinyu was speechless. All that impressive display, yet still needing to rely on others. He firmly refused. He stated that his sword could only hold 2 people. Before he could finish speaking, Xie Tingyun pointed to his shoulders, telling Yun Wan to ride on them. It can only hold 2 people, but nobody said anything about people riding on people. Yun Wan was shocked. She exclaimed, "Is this riding method really okay?" After being hoisted onto his shoulders, she instinctively grabbed Xie Tingyun's hair tuft, afraid of falling badly. Xie Tingyun endured the pain of his scalp being pulled while firmly gripping her ankles. He calmly stated that when they take off, he'd cast a weightlessness spell, and they could discuss the weight issue later. Yun Wan hadn't yet realized the gravity of the situation and couldn't help asking why they couldn't just make the sword bigger. Li Xinyu smiled sheepishly, admitting his cultivation wasn't advanced enough. With a whoosh, the sword soared into the clouds. Yun Wan, perched on his neck, was not only trembling in fear, but also had her cheeks stinging from the cold wind. Then a voice came from behind. "So a sword can be used like this, but won't 3 people be too heavy?" His junior sister, however, looked envious, thinking it was romantic and wanting to ride on her senior brother's neck while flying. Yun Wan wanted to curse. "Romantic my foot." Her skull was nearly blown off by the wind. Li Xinyu exclaimed he'd never met such a bold woman before. They had planned to fly to Diyun City by sword, but the supreme sword wouldn't let them ride. They had no choice but to squeeze 3 people onto one sword. Shortly after taking off, Yun Wan complained about the wind hurting her head and wanted to rest. They landed on a mountaintop where Yun Wan, panting, finally got down from Xie Tingyun's neck. After catching her breath, she suggested letting Xie Tingyun ride on her neck instead, at least to avoid the painful wind. She squatted down, patting her shoulders to signal Xie Tingyun to get on. Li Xuanyou's face reddened with embarrassment. This lady was so direct. It was his first time meeting someone so uninhibited. After a long silence, Xie Tingyun mounted. Thanks to the weightlessness spell, Yun Wan carried him as easily as wearing a necklace. One expressionless, one composed, they flew back into the clouds on the sword. Finally reaching their destination, Li Xuanyou was reluctant to part ways. He specifically warned them about the many human traffickers in the area and advised against taking risks, lest they be kidnapped by villains. Just as they were saying goodbye, an aggressive figure appeared behind them, shouting, "Li Xinyu, I've finally found you, you scoundrel. Come back to the East Gate with me immediately." Li Xinyu, grabbed by his clothes, knew he couldn't escape. He gave up resisting, but still managed to wave goodbye to Yunwan, expressing his gratitude. "Your great kindness will never be forgotten." The person found him too talkative and cast a spell while turning away from Li Xinyu. They promptly handed 80 bounty coins to Yunwan. Xie Tingyan couldn't help but sigh. This was a classic case of counting money for someone who just sold you out. When his gaze fell on Yunwan's face, he showed no regret, happily counting the snacks they'd earned. Facing the abundant rewards, Xie Tingyan pointed out that he helped too, so why wasn't he getting anything? Yunwan rummaged through the bag for a while and pulled out a high-quality jade piece to give him. Xie Tingyan glanced at it but didn't take it. "Is this not enough?" Yunwan understood immediately and took out 2 more high-grade spirit stones. Only then did Xie Tingyan accept them satisfactorily, immediately feeding them to his hungry supreme sword. Seeing this, Yunwan teased that he really loved his wife, giving away such precious items without hesitation. They leisurely entered Diyun City, where evil qi had long gathered in the sky, preventing sunlight from reaching the ground. The wooden buildings with red tiles were visible, their colors faded from years of neglect. The merchants on both sides mostly sold illegally excavated precious herbs and rare hunting catches, all displayed bloody and unprocessed in plain sight. Yunwan could vaguely smell an indescribable stench that made her nauseous. Since entering the city, their clean clothes made them stand out, attracting countless stares along the way. Noticing this, Xie Tianyun told Yunwan to hold his hand tightly, as they seemed to be followed. Everything around them seemed particularly strange as they entered Diyun City. Xie Tianyun suddenly whispered to hold his hand tight, as someone seemed to be following them. Yunwan frowned, glanced back, and slowly placed her hand in his broad palm, noting how warm it was. Seeing her obedience, though Xie Tingyun's expression remained neutral, his eyes showed a hint of excitement. After walking a few steps, Yunwan's stomach growled. Embarrassed, she thought that food was still the most important thing. Xie Tingyan understood immediately and led her into a relatively clean tavern. But Yunwan waited and waited, with no waiter bringing food, only drinking water until almost full. Just then, she noticed someone slowly approaching from behind. Up close, it was a well-groomed man who came to chat, asking, "Miss, are you new here?" Yunwan saw his suspicious behavior and knew he had ill intentions, though his appearance was considered handsome by Diyun City standards. While observing him, Yunwan remained vigilant and replied that she was passing through with her brother, asking what he wanted. The man lowered his voice and pretentiously warned that this place was unsafe, especially this tavern's owner, who conspired with demons to capture young travelers and turn them into demon cultivators. He explained that their essence could greatly enhance demons' cultivation, and people from the sect were kidnapped daily. Even if rescued, they would be tortured beyond recognition. Xie Tingyan was ready to kill, but Yunwan stopped him in time. She remembered Li Xuanyo's warning. They must have encountered human traffickers. As the saying goes, don't trouble others if you don't want trouble. These human trafficking tricks, Yunwan knew them all too well. Her eyes glinted as she already had a devious plan to deal with the man. She covered her mouth and softly said that if what he said was true, they shouldn't stay here long. But being newcomers, they didn't know their way around. Hearing this, the man took the bait and quickly interrupted. "I know a safe place. Why don't you come with me?" This was exactly what Yunwan wanted. As she prepared to leave, she looked at Xie Tingyun, who stood frozen. She slapped the back of his head, saying, "Brother, hurry up and follow." The woman's slap was so strong, it almost knocked Xie Tingyun out, but seeing her meaningful glance, he knew she was up to something. He followed behind them expressionlessly and reluctantly. On the way from the tavern, the man casually probed, "Where are you from? And where are you headed?" Yunwan answered truthfully that they came from Shushi City, heading to Kunlun to seek mentorship. The man's eyes lit up at this. "Oh, just minor cultivators. Is it just the 2 of you?" "3 of us. Our cousin is still at the tavern. If you don't mind, we could go get him and all go together." The man could barely contain his joy. What a jackpot. Whether trafficking 1 or 2, it was all profit. If this deal went through, he'd make enough for 3 months' quota. But he didn't know this was all part of the woman's plan. Yunwan thought to herself, with this level of intelligence, he dares to be a trafficker? I'll show you how cruel people can be. The best hunters often appear as prey, and now Yunwan was experiencing what it felt like to be a trafficker herself. Just moments ago, they were being led by the well-groomed trafficker to meat buyers. Now the roles had reversed, with Yunwan leading the way to their cousin Xie Tingyun. As things got more absurd, he felt increasingly uneasy. Knowing there were demons in Diyun City, it would be fine meeting lesser ones. But what about thousand-year-old demons? He looked down at his supreme sword, remembering he had fed it high-grade snacks earlier. Perhaps it would let him draw it in emergencies. Lost in thought, they were led by Yun Wan to a shady establishment in an alley. She suddenly stopped, saying their cousin was just inside, and asked them to wait while she went to get him. Xie Tianyin felt worried. When he tried to follow, she shot him a fierce glare. Then he realized she chose this alley because she was certain it was the trafficker's headquarters. In Diyun City, this was highly likely, but was she gambling on luck? Yun Wan cautiously approached alone. Two fierce-looking men blocked her path. She whispered, "I have business to discuss. Could you let me through, brother?" Seeing their silent exchange of glances before making way, she knew her gamble had paid off. Indeed, in Diyun City, the most inconspicuous places were often traffickers' hideouts. Led by an underling, Yunwan met a burly man. He got straight to the point, asking which one she wanted to sell, or both. Yunwan indicated the right one, saying the tall, skinny one on the left wasn't quite right in the head. The burly man agreed about not wanting someone mentally slow, saying the left one was worth 300 spirit stones. Just 300 spirit stones for someone I brought from so far away. Yun Wan, now fully immersed in her act, insisted on a higher price. The burly man actually believed her, thinking he'd met a tough negotiator, and waved his hand. "How about 600? Deal." Yun Wan knew when to stop, quickly accepting the hefty 600 spirit stones. Smiling, she praised the man's generosity and said she'd bring in the person being sold. Back outside, Xie Tingyun finally felt relieved. Yun Wan pretended to sob, saying their cousin accidentally broke something in the shop and the owner wouldn't let her tell. The trafficker panicked, not wanting to lose his catch, and asked about the compensation amount. Learning it was just 500 taels, he thought about how much more he could make by selling all three of them. Without hesitation, he took out money from his storage bag, telling them to quickly go pay the compensation. But Yun Wan continued acting coy with tears. "The owner inside is so scary. I'm frightened. Could you accompany me inside?" The trafficker was delighted and followed without any suspicion. Once they were inside, Yun Wan immediately ran, reminding Xie Tianyin to run fast too. They had to escape before everyone realized what happened, or getting caught would mean more than just superficial trouble. Xie Tianyin had seen dishonorable people before, but never someone so shameless who could deceive both sides. Even the Supreme Sword thought this woman was terrifying, though if its master had half her wit, he wouldn't always be in trouble. Xie Tingyun's expression remained cold. He saw right through the Supreme Sword's thoughts. If he died now, the sword would probably accept Yun Wan as its master without hesitation. During their hasty escape, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air. Xie Tianyin reacted quickly, grabbing Yun Wan and dodging the danger. The fallen arrow emitted poisonous smoke. He immediately realized the arrow's deadly nature. As minor cultivators, they relied on their powerful bodyguard's protection while causing trouble along the way. Having just escaped one danger, they walked right into another. Another arrow whistled past, turning into a puddle of foul-smelling green liquid upon landing. If not for Xie Tianyin's quick reaction, Yun Wan would have been liquefied. Looking up, they saw several giant bird beasts surrounding them, aiming poisoned arrows. But they didn't look quite like beasts, more like mutated humans. Before they could look closer, more arrows came flying at them. Xie Tianyin was prepared this time, carrying the woman out of the encirclement, leaving chaos behind. Yun Wan couldn't help mocking their poor archery skills, saying they missed by miles. She suggested they'd be better off working with her than running so many errands themselves. As she spoke, her expression changed, ready to cause more trouble. Her eyes brightened as she curiously asked what race they were, wondering about their strange appearance. "Half-demons, offspring of demons and humans," came the answer. Xie Tingyun had heard that half-demons were the most discriminated against mixed bloods in the 6 realms, used as the cheapest labor. They would serve anyone just for food. Yun Wan fell silent for a moment before cursing, wondering why they didn't just call themselves city demons instead. Xie Tingyun was speechless at this bizarre logic. Though half-breeds, they were pitiful beings, rejected by both the demon realm and human world. Yun Wan found this idea quite appealing, as it was exactly what she wanted. If she could recruit them, she could make money without doing any work. She waved at the shadows. "Brothers, stop shooting. Let's discuss a deal." Xie Tingyun sighed, knowing her personality well by now. and shook his head in disapproval. Though half-demons weren't well respected, they were extremely loyal, serving their master until death. Yunwan understood instantly, her eyes turning gentle and alluring. "So you'll help me, right?" Even this straightforward man understood her plan to kill the half-demon's master would fall to him. Seeing Xie Tingyun's silence as agreement, Yunwan was overjoyed, praising him repeatedly. Xie Tingyun blushed at the praise, letting her scheme since he'd handle any consequences. They stopped resisting and were soon bound by the half-demons, taken to the spider demon's lair. The winding path seemed endless, with flickering green ghost fires on the walls providing the only light. The unlucky pair had escaped one trap only to fall into another, and even the usually clever Yunwan admitted defeat. But with a powerful ally, dealing with a 1,000-year-old spider demon shouldn't be too difficult. Upon entering the cave, they were hit by an unpleasant damp smell. Yunwan noticed the smell growing stronger as they went deeper. A sticky liquid dropped on her shoulder. Looking up, she was nearly scared to death. Above them, countless people were wrapped in spider webs, their shadows still moving. Noticing this, the usually cold Xie Tingyun laughed mockingly. "Still want to make money?" Yunwan remained stubborn. "Why not? After all, you're here with me. But let me ask first, can you draw your supreme sword?" "Not sure." "Can you defeat the half-demons?" "Also not sure." Yunwan grew exasperated. "If everything's uncertain, how are you so confident?" She felt somewhat regretful, but not entirely. As they say, succeed or die trying. Success becomes a story, failure becomes an accident. Analyzing the situation, she figured the leader was a spider demon, likely afraid of fire. Fortunately, she knew fire techniques, and with the dark, poorly ventilated cave, escape should be possible. Suddenly, a strange scent entered her body, creating an odd sensation. Yunwan's heart raced, her vision blurred, and her mind filled with chaotic thoughts. Xie Tingyun quickly cast a protection spell on the disoriented woman. Yunwan leaned weakly against him, feeling his warmth. This gesture clearly affected Xie Tianyun, and suddenly, his face turned red. They soon reached the spider demon's cave, where the strange scent originated. Unlike elsewhere, this area was filled with mysterious mist and accompanied by unfriendly, erratic breathing sounds. Due to her special constitution, Yunwan was extremely sensitive to these sounds despite the protection spell. She unconsciously blushed, sneaking glances at the man's reaction. But Xie Tingyun remained calm as ever, completely undisturbed. Suddenly, everything went quiet, and a delicate jade hand extended from the depths. A seductive voice called them over. Yunwan grabbed his clothes, preventing him from going. He was here to help kill demons, not sell his body. But Xie Tingyun patted her reassuringly, saying he knew what he was doing. However, he was instantly rejected after taking one step. The spider demon lifted the veil. "I meant for the woman to come. Men are boring. I want to taste the girl." This was absurd. Who knew a spider demon would be so picky about gender? The supremely handsome man was actually rejected. Yunwan forced a bitter smile, her legs trembling as she slowly walked forward. But the spider demon grew impatient, complaining it would take too long. It shot out a spider thread, tightly wrapping around the woman's waist and pulling her close. Yunwan drew closer, and due to inhaling that suggestive smoke, her mouth seemed to move on its own. She blurted out, "Sister, you're so beautiful." Unexpectedly, the spider demon looked at the dazed woman with disdain. Xie Tingyun retorted, "How rude! You dare belittle her?" He decisively drew his supreme sword. "Watch this." The top beauty of the cultivation world, rejected by a mere spider demon. Before Yunwan could react, the handsome man was already displeased. In this critical moment, the supreme sword proved its worth. Xie Tingyun drew it and delivered a fatal strike. In an instant, the spider demon perished, purple poison visibly flowing from its body. Yunwan's eyes widened, realizing in her dazed state she hadn't seen how he struck. The supreme sword radiated a chilling aura, its powerful sword energy dissolving all lingering spirits. Xie Tingyun looked down imposingly, asking, "How beautiful is the spider demon now?" Yunwan finally realized she had spoken nonsense while dazed. Could he be jealous? She quickly defended herself. "Why be jealous? You're the most beautiful in the world." Xie Tingyun was finally satisfied. He placed his palm on the spider demon's abdomen, extracting a golden glowing core. He turned and handed it to her. "Eat it quickly. It's good for increasing cultivation." Yunwan cringed. This thing came from the spider demon's stomach. It couldn't taste good. But hearing it could increase cultivation, she wavered, asking why he wouldn't eat it himself. Xie Tingyan casually replied he didn't want it because the demon was ugly, surprisingly petty. She worried about side effects, being just a low-level practitioner. It would be terrible if there was a backlash. Xie Tingyun patiently explained that while others could increase power by absorbing spiritual energy, her constitution was different. To advance beyond the qi cultivation stage, consuming demon cores was the best method. Hearing this, Yunwan steeled herself and swallowed it with closed eyes. At first, there was little reaction, but soon her body filled with heat. Seeing this, Xie Tingyun sensed something wrong and quickly asked how she felt. Yunwan hesitated, face red, breathing heavily. Before she could finish describing the sensation, she impatiently grabbed Xie Tingyun and kissed him. The mighty leader found himself pinned down and passionately teased. But in the midst of desire, he said no. After consuming the demon core, Yuan lost her mind to desire, losing all rationality. She stared at the man before her, grabbed his collar, and kissed him directly. Xie Tingyun was stunned, remembering their last intimacy was purely to counter poison, while this time it was to quench thirst. The sudden tingling sensation made him unconsciously hold her waist. As a prominent figure in the cultivation world, Xie Tingyun wasn't easily seduced, but her advances were too skillful to resist. Yunwan breathed heavily, pushing him down beneath her. The demon core's effects clouded her mind as she cried out in discomfort. As clothes began disappearing, Xie Tingyun suddenly came to his senses, blushing as he refused. But Yunwan wouldn't listen. Though confused, her mind worked well enough. It was fine last time. Why not now when she was suffering? Her irrational temper flared up, refusing to listen to reason, determined to have her way with him. Xie Tingyun's composure crumbled. He had no choice but to flip her underneath him, thinking this would calm her. Seeing her affected by the demon core, he felt sympathetic. After a pause, he couldn't help but kiss her again. During their embrace, Xie Tingyun formed a plan, gradually transferring some true qi while they kissed. Afterward, he explained in a low voice that with the spider demon dead, its lair would soon collapse. Moreover, this place where the demon had slept was filthy and inappropriate. But Yunwan seemed not to hear. She continued clutching him stubbornly, refusing to let go. Xie Tingyun sweated profusely, fearing he'd lose control if this continued. He held her hands, promising to make it up to her next time she felt unwell. The transferred true qi began taking effect. Yunwan felt the heat subside, and upon regaining clarity, pushed him away, proudly declaring he was dreaming about next time. Despite her words, she couldn't help glancing to see his reaction. She noticed his neck was red from her bites, with visible lip marks. Yunwan finally realized what had happened, but bizarrely blurted out, "Is it free?" Xie Tingyun was first stunned, then quickly returned to his usual composure, darkly replying, "It's free. This time and next time both?" "Yes, both." Yunwan felt relieved, clearly showing an attitude of wanting intimacy without paying. She thought the first time was special circumstances, this time an accident. She didn't want to be extorted for a kiss. If there was a next time, she'd get his body for free. After the incident, she blamed him for not warning her beforehand. But Xie Tingyun claimed innocence, saying he didn't know first-time demon core consumption would cause this. Though given her unique constitution, such unusual reactions were understandable. He then asked how she felt now. Yunwan grew angry, saying besides the earlier confusion, she felt no changes. Perhaps it was a fake demon core? Xie Tingyun recalled the previous scene, feeling somewhat uncomfortable. After his daze, he suggested she try meditation. Yunwan sat down to meditate, letting energy flow through her dantian. Soon she felt her inner power strengthen and her body become lighter. But she couldn't feel happy at all. Despite consuming the demon core, she was still just a novice cultivator. Even a century-old spider demon couldn't help her poor constitution. Xie Tingyun comforted her, saying everyone's situation is different and she shouldn't feel dejected. Meanwhile, he noticed the cave starting to shake. It wouldn't last long before collapsing, so survival was the priority. But Yuan wasn't eager to escape. The spider demon must have accumulated plenty of treasures during its reign. It would be a waste to leave without taking some loot. They quickly found the spider demon's treasure chamber, filled with countless valuables. Yunwan's sword was mesmerized, urging them not to just stand there, but help stuff things into storage bags. The supreme sword, rebellious as ever, seeing its master standing still, broke free and flew around collecting spiritual energy to devour. This person and sword perfectly embodied the word greed. Soon after, Xie Tingyun noticed cracks forming in the walls. The cave was about to collapse. Without hesitation, he grabbed the treasured Yunwan and her sword and ran. But after a few steps, they heard desperate cries for help. Curiosity got the better of them. Yunwan pressed her ear to the ground, hearing sounds from below. If she guessed right, the spider demon must have a secret prison chamber. Following the plot, Yunwan was about to meet her fated connection, Yuan Shu. He was a powerful figure, but imprisoned by the spider demon. Fortunately, fate brought him to meet the female protagonist. Listening carefully to the crying from below, she could tell there was indeed a secret chamber. Seeing the urgent situation, she punched the ground without thinking, creating a large hole. Xie Tingyun watched this action, commenting that it would only make the cave collapse faster. Entering the secret chamber, they were hit by a terrible stench. Yunwan couldn't believe how many children were imprisoned in this airless environment. Amid the wailing, Xie Tingyun waved his hand, breaking numerous chains. The children finally gained their freedom. As they were escaping, a little girl grabbed her skirt. She begged them to save an injured big brother who was captured while trying to save them. Though the situation was urgent, Yunwan couldn't ignore this plea. After weighing the options, she decided to let the pretty boy escort the children while she went to save the person. Xie Tingyun was clearly unwilling, worried about letting Yunwan go alone. Just then, a man claiming to be from Jingwe's sect volunteered to take responsibility, asking them to trust him with the children. He urged them to hurry and save his senior brother. Yunwan hesitated, having always disliked Jingwe's sect members. In the original story, they were cruel and had turned the original owner into their plaything. Despite her cold treatment, the Jingwe sect member bowed, blaming himself for their misfortune. He hoped they could help rescue those trapped in this predicament. Though annoyed, Yunwan waved her hand, agreeing to help. She then turned and returned to the cave with the pretty boy. Seeing a man trapped in the spider demon's barrier, she guessed this must be the senior brother Jingwe sect mentioned. His disheveled appearance with matted hair suggested he had endured considerable torture. Without delay, Xie Tingyun removed the waist restraints and forcefully extracted the soul-binding chains from his body. Fortunately, he was still alive. The priority now was getting him out. But before he could act, Yunwan had already hoisted the man up, joking that her chi cultivation physique was perfect for manual labor. Though Xie Tingyun remained silent, his expression clearly showed jealousy. But given the timing, setting up the formation to leave was more important. Luckily, just as the spider cave collapsed, the three were teleported out. He had used all his strength to save someone, not knowing he'd saved a great nemesis. Because that person was none other than their fated enemy. With Chu Ling's master dead, the helpless half-demon didn't know what to do. Seeing this, Yunwan directly asked if they wanted to join her. She offered good treatment, room and board, and 1 day off per month. The naive half-demon immediately agreed, calling her master. Xie Tingyun chuckled, saying there was nothing surprising about it. They lacked human wisdom and demonic cunning. Simply put, they would follow whoever they accepted. Once they acknowledged a master, they would endure abuse or even sacrifice their lives without hesitation. Hearing this, Yunwan felt sympathetic and decided to give them 2 days off per month instead. Xie Tingyun indifferently poked her head affectionately, saying she could do as she pleased as long as she didn't do anything harmful. Of course, but looking at all the children, they should be sent home first. Yunwan immediately ordered the half-demons to set out and return the children to where they were taken from. But as soon as she spoke, the Jingwe sect disciples objected, arguing that they couldn't easily forgive those who had harmed others first. They created a blue formation, trapping all the half-demons inside. Everyone turned to Yunwan for help, clearly seeing her as their only hope. With sharp eyes, Yunwan stood before the half-demons, stating that the spider demon was at fault, not them. Besides, the culprit was already dead, so why misdirect their anger? The Jingwe sect disciple paused, acknowledging the point. But before they could object further, Yunwan mockingly took a protective stance. She questioned whether the mighty Jingwe sect discriminated against species. This made them break into a cold sweat, claiming that Jingwe sect embraced all beings. Unable to argue further, they conceded that the half-demons could return the children. But they insisted on going along and pointed at the pretty boy to accompany them. Given the number of half-demons, they worried about potential problems if left alone, preferring to be cautious. Yunwan immediately switched to an adorable, pleading manner, and though Xie Tingyun was reluctant, he agreed. The Jingwe sect disciple was finally reassured, mentioning that their junior sister would arrive soon, asking the lady to look after their senior brother. Yunwan understood the implications, stating that their senior brother's safety depended on all half-demons returning unharmed. After everyone left, Yunwan curiously used a branch to brush aside the man's hair, wanting to see his face. But she saw the face she least wanted to see, and in her disgust, unconsciously uttered Chu Ling. Her righteous rescue had turned into a great mistake. The person she saved turned out to be a scoundrel who loved all beings except the female lead. When Yunwan clearly saw his face, she stepped back repeatedly, feeling unlucky. But Chu Lin had ended up like this because of his good intentions. If left unattended, he might die from blood loss. But then she remembered, in the original story, Yunwan was thrown to demons by Chu Lin himself. It might be better to just let him die. Meanwhile, Chu Lin was in extreme pain, groaning in agony even while unconscious. Yunwan, choosing to be a bystander, felt conflicted. She could understand his dislike for the previous life's female lead, but couldn't accept his arrogant actions to harm her. Suddenly, there was a sound of fresh blood. She turned to look. Chu Lin's wounds were still bleeding. He was tortured half to death. If no one helped now, he might die. Yunwan sighed helplessly. If he died, that would be one thing, but getting into trouble with Jin Yedong would be problematic. After all, this sect was famously unreasonable. Then again, if she saved him, she could extort some money in the process. With that thought, she roughly wiped his wounds with a handkerchief, perhaps due to the medicine's stimulation and her rough movements. The man suddenly awoke from his unconsciousness, reflexively grabbing her hand and questioning her identity while gripping her neck. As he spoke, blood uncontrollably dripped from his mouth. This action disgusted Yunwan, but being pinned down, she had no strength to fight back. In a daze, Chu Ling suddenly froze, noticing the red birthmark on her forehead. For some reason, he felt a sense of familiarity. But before he could react, a heavy spiritual force sent him flying. Fortunately, Xie Tianyin appeared in time to save Yunwan. He was very displeased, his expression cold and proud, looking down at Chu Ling. Facing such presence, even those who had seen much would be terrified. Chu Ling didn't understand this person's intention, only feeling that his already painful body hurt even more now. The pretty boy was pinned down. The man immediately struck with spiritual force. The Jingwe sect disciples who arrived, defending their senior brother, grimly questioned the friend's intentions. How could he harm someone without reason? Xie Tianyun was displeased. His person had been bullied. How could he not act? These few words left the other party speechless. After recovering, Yunwan asked if everything was settled. But Xie Tingyun turned his head aside and sarcastically remarked about her kindness in treating other men. Guilty, Yunwan lowered her head and explained that Chu Lin was Jin Yedong's person, and if he died here, she couldn't explain it. Besides, they weren't wealthy, and if they were extorted, how would they manage? They had many half-demons to feed. Xie Tingyun glanced at Chu Lin, noting he seemed fine before Jingwe sect. Understanding his words, Yunwan covered her mouth and laughed. How had he suddenly become so mischievous? His style matched hers. Xie Tingyun smirked, saying one becomes like those they're close to, all thanks to her teaching. Meanwhile, Chu Lin, resting against a tree and feeling slightly better, overheard their discussion. The two had quickly agreed on a scheme to extort money. After all, Yunwan had saved Chu Lin's life, and he had attacked first. Taking advantage to extort some money would be an easy task. Chu Lin looked confused. Why should he pay when everything was fine? Did she look like someone with money? Yunwan smiled and said he must pay. Someone rescued from a spider demon's cave couldn't be let off easily. As fellow cultivators, she'd charge both brothers 10,000 spirit stones. The junior brother looked at his senior brother, muttering that they were indeed saved by the woman, an undeniable fact. Chu Ling apologized politely, saying it was his fault for being rash earlier, asking for her forgiveness. Yunwan waved her hand, saying forgiveness could wait. Just pay up first, not a single spirit stone less. The junior brother was about to protest when his senior brother stopped him, asking if he had any spirit stones. The junior brother looked troubled, saying his senior knew that thunder cultivation was the most expensive. Everyone knew sword cultivators were poor, but thunder cultivators had it worse. Chu Lin sighed helplessly, saying they'd wait for their junior sister to pay, but his body might not last until then. Yunwan casually tossed a medicine bottle, saying it was a cure-all miracle pill, but it would cost extra. The two stood dumbfounded, never having met such a materialistic woman in all their years. Yunwan looked at the troubled brothers, wondering if she was too mean. Xie Tingyun slowly replied, "Not really," which basically admitted she was mean. She then pinched his waist playfully, looking exactly like a flirting couple. The junior brother, facing this blatant display of affection, complained about his friend's peculiar taste. The woman was greedy and materialistic, not even as cute as their junior sister. He wondered what he saw in her. Chu Lin looked up, noting that while she was ordinary looking, the red birthmark on her forehead was unique. Normally, he wouldn't give such a woman a second glance, but he had a strange feeling of familiarity. After some time, Qin Jian finally arrived. Though known for being willful and ingenious sect, she was still no match for the calculating Yunwan. The men had caused trouble outside without money to resolve it, waiting for their junior sister to pay the ransom. The uninformed Qin Yinran rushed over, showing concern for her injured senior brother. The junior brother quickly explained they were ambushed while trying to fight a spider demon, and senior brother was injured while trying to save someone. Chu Ling explained it wasn't others' fault, as the spider demon had 100 years of cultivation. Combined with absorbing men's cultivation, it was powerful. His current state was due to his own carelessness. At this point, Chu Ling called out, "Ayin, could you give your spirit stones to this lady?" Thanks to her timely rescue, or the consequences would have been unthinkable. Qin Jian's eyes were fixed on her senior brother the whole time, then surveyed the silent pair. Especially Yunwan, who left a deep impression. She could even dream about the previous humiliation. Though displeased, she had to comply with her senior brother's request and reluctantly offered the spirit stones. But Yunwan didn't even take them, joking if that's all the senior brother's life was worth. Upon hearing this, Qin Jian stamped her foot, warning her to watch her words, saying her senior brother was priceless. Yunwan, tired of nonsense, stated the price clearly, 10,000 for saving him, plus medicine, total 15,000. Hurry up and pay. This shocked Qin Jian into cursing, calling it pure extortion. Even commissioning a good sword from a swordsmith wouldn't cost 15,000. Yunwan laughed in frustration, saying, "Don't believe me? Ask your senior brother. Is he not worth even this much to you? If that's really the case, just give 10 spirit stones. I'll consider it as saving a useless person. As long as your conscience allows it, I don't care." Qin Jian frowned at the provocation, knowing she was cornered since she valued her senior brother above all. With no choice, she had to pool money with her fellow disciples. Following her conscience, she reluctantly handed over the spirit stones with both hands. Meanwhile, Yunwan's eyes flickered as she deliberately mentioned the medicine would greatly benefit the senior brother, suggesting they buy more. Qin Jian coldly snorted, saying Jinhua sect had free medicine that worked just fine. Yunwan immediately schemed, using an enticing tone to announce bulk discounts on the medicine. If you buy 3 bottles, it's only 9,000, plus a free fragrance bomb. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? When a poor sword cultivator meets a business ghost, people say he's living off others. But Xie Tianyun felt no shame and was completely at ease. Yunwan's eyes flickered as she started selling magical pills. Qin Jian wanted them eagerly, but still tried to find excuses to appear reluctant. Seeing this reaction as expected, Yunwan decisively took out all the treasures from the spider cave. She laid them all out like a street vendor. Since she couldn't use them anyway, she might as well sell them to Jinghua sect disciples for a profit. Hearing limited time offered, don't miss out, everyone marveled. Though expensive, the items were genuine. Qin Jian's eyes reddened with temptation, forgetting her dignity as she pushed into the crowd to get some treasures. The neglected Chu Ling was bewildered, and even his junior brother couldn't help but mock these spendthrifts, forgetting gratitude at the sight of treasures. When his gaze fell on Xie Tingyun standing there collecting money, he grew even more angry. The junior brother furiously mocked how a man who could earn his keep through skill chose to be a kept man, and he acted so natural as a temporary cashier, showing absolutely no guilt. After a while, the satisfied Qin Jian finally remembered. She asked if they got the spider demon's core, as it could help her senior brother break through. Chu Ling looked embarrassed, explaining he meant to kill the spider demon, but was captured instead. The core must be with those two. Qin Jian looked straight at Yunwan, saying she'd pay any price for it. Yunwan weakly replied she'd be disappointed, as she had already eaten the core, leaving nothing behind. Qin Jian froze, staring at the two, one at Qi gathering stage, one at foundation stage. Killing the spider was unexpected enough, but the 100-year demon core was just eaten like that, and by a Qi gathering weakling no less. How was that possible? Yunwan watched the emotional woman, recalling from the original story how Chu Lin was captured while searching for his junior brother. At the crucial moment, he broke through to Golden Core's second stage, killed the spider demon, took its core, and advanced to nascent soul stage. Thinking of this, eating the important demon core was indirectly helping the original owner break through. So she righteously stated she ate it, and they could deal with it however they wanted. Unexpectedly, Qin Jian burst into tears. She had planned to get engaged once her senior brother reached nascent soul stage, but now that was ruined. Yunwan couldn't stand it anymore and kindly offered a spirit pill for comfort, saying she'd give it to her if she stopped being so annoying. Qin Jian thought a free treasure shouldn't be wasted, but taking her senior brother for treatment was more important right now. Before leaving, she promised to repay the money owed for the purchases on time. As a daughter of a noble sect, she would absolutely keep her word. After they left, Xie Tingyan pointed at the half-demons, asking Yunwan how to handle them. Looking at their dirty faces and shabby clothes, she thought they had enough money to give them makeovers. In the next episode, unexpectedly, Yunwan would help the six-pack showing Xie Tianyun catch eels, which completely bewildered the man. The business ghost and poor sword cultivator not only made money while traveling, but also unexpectedly gained a group of foolish half-demons. Yunwan looked at everyone's dirty faces and shabby clothes, feeling somewhat sympathetic. So she took out the earned fine silk and brocade, planning to make custom outfits. She called everyone over to measure their sizes. Unexpectedly, the half-demons chirped master so loudly it nearly made Yunwan's head explode. Exhausted, Yunwan had them line up, but her hand holding the measuring tape hesitated. Because the half-demons had wings and tails, she was completely stumped. Seeing this, Xie Tianyun chuckled, took the measuring tape, and told her to rest while he handled it. As soon as he said that, Yunwan turned into a fangirl, quickly giving way to the master. She hadn't expected the pretty boy bodyguard to have such skills. Xie Tianyun turned wood into reality and sketches into actual clothes. His movements were fluid and seamless, completing everything in less than half an hour. Yunwan covered her mouth in amazement, saying if she could learn this, they might expand into the clothing industry. But before she could finish, Xie Tingyun immediately understood and refused, saying her cultivation level wasn't high enough to learn it. These words didn't hurt much, but were extremely insulting to Yunwan. She felt dejected. Though she didn't want to be a young miss, she was helpless now. Xie Tingyun's lips curled as he accidentally discovered a spring behind the mountain. The spiritual energy was very rich there, possibly able to increase cultivation. Hearing this, Yunwan became excited and pulled at her clothes, expressing her desire to go. So after instructing the half-demons to watch their belongings, they went to the spring. While testing the water temperature, Yunwan looked up and asked if he would bathe. Xie Tingyun pretended to be reserved, saying not to mind him, then added that he wouldn't bathe but would stand guard. Yunwan joked that that wouldn't be nice, since the spring was large enough, suggesting one could bathe on the left and one on the right. Xie Tingyun glanced sideways, and though silent, his body honestly prepared to enter the water. The carefree Yunwan didn't notice the man's blushing face and waved her hand, promising not to peek. As her body soaked in the spirit spring, she couldn't help but remove her spirit seal in comfort. She examined her long-unseen true appearance in the water's surface, wondering how the original owner was doing and if they were pursuing boxing with her identity. Meanwhile, Xie Tingyun was meditating with closed eyes. Though his cultivation was slowly recovering, it would take at least 3 years to return to his peak. Suddenly feeling something cold and clear, he thought it was Yunwan playing around and called out to stop. But the slippery sensation continued, rubbing against his legs. His body jolted in fright, and when he suddenly opened his eyes, he saw an eel nuzzling around. Hearing the commotion, Yunwan hurriedly put on her spirit seal and stretched her neck to ask if the pretty boy was all right. Getting no response, she couldn't help but run over to the man's side with a red face to investigate. Seeing he was fine, she frantically explained it was purely accidental, not intentional. Xie Tingyun was stunned, instinctively avoiding eye contact, informing her there was an eel that had climbed onto his leg. Unexpectedly, Yunwan showed no fear upon hearing this, shouting, "Don't be afraid," as she reached to catch it. An eel bite would be terrible, especially from a spiritual eel in the cultivation world. Before Xie Tingyun could even speak properly, she seriously shouted, "Got it." She remarked it was quite big and would make a filling meal if grilled. But as soon as she said that, Xie Tingyun's face turned red, his gaze intense, saying he had already dealt with the eel. As their eyes met, Yunwan instantly understood and quickly released her offending hand. She tried to maintain composure as she slowly submerged her head in the water, disappearing with bubbling sounds, leaving Xie Tingyun standing there dumbfounded, uncomfortable in every way. The cultivation world's master suffered at his fiancée's hands, all because the unfortunate female supporting character accidentally grabbed the large eel. When she carefully noticed the man's uneasy expression, Yunwan was so anxious she wanted to find a hole to crawl into. What was actually nothing special had been mistaken for something entirely different. If she had somehow injured him, wouldn't that make her a terrible person? After internal struggle, Yunwan finally gathered courage to speak, saying it was purely accidental and asking if he was okay. Xie Tingyun clearly paused before replying embarrassedly that he was fine. Even so, Yunwan felt somewhat guilty. She looked through her storage bag and found a bottle of all-purpose tonic pills, offering them to him. Stuttering, she explained she had gotten them from the spider spirit, saying they were definitely good for health and safe to eat, promising it wouldn't cause confusion like last time. Her bringing up that awkward memory made Xie Tingyun even more embarrassed. They both turned away, neither daring to look at the other. But the persistent Yunwan, still red-faced, asked again if he wanted them. Xie Tingyun took a deep breath, feigning calmness, said no need, and walked toward where the half-demons were resting. Yunwan hesitated while watching his back, unsure if he truly didn't need the tonic pills, or if he was just refusing out of pride. When they returned to their original spot, they found the half-demons completely transformed. Even their wings were exceptionally clean. She put her hands on her hips, admiring the pretty boy's handiwork, casually telling everyone to go rest. She'd call them if needed. When the bonfire was lit, it was already late at night. Yunwan suggested to the pretty boy that they should sleep, but his response was that he needed to keep watch. These simple words made her imagination run wild. She wondered if he couldn't sleep because of the pain from earlier. Thinking this was likely, she pulled out a pink, shiny blanket from her storage bag, spreading it on the ground, thoughtfully telling him it would be much more comfortable to sleep on. Meanwhile, the tactless half-demon suddenly appeared, eyes shining while looking at its master, saying it could help keep watch so you and the male consort can rest assured. Yunwan looked at the silly half-demons helplessly, surprised that the spider spirit taught them so well. They even learned to say things like male consort. She suddenly turned around to find Xie Tingyun smiling, looking especially warm in the firelight, hurriedly explaining that such vulgar words like male consort weren't taught by her. Xie Tingyun smiled ambiguously, lying down on the blanket, gesturing for her to come sleep. But Yunwan waved her hand and pulled out another limited edition blanket from her storage bag, smiling while saying she had her own. No need to trouble him. Xie Tingyun's expression turned serious, saying the half-demons needed a place to stay, asking what her plans were. Yunwan felt half-demons had a bad reputation. If not used now, others would be even less accepting. She needed to think of a solution, wishing they had a big house for them to live in. Xie Tingyun chuckled, saying she was already dreaming before sleeping. Land in the cultivation world was extremely expensive, not something a little money could solve. As the night grew colder, Yunwan shivered. In her hazy consciousness, she felt someone holding her protectively, and suddenly she wasn't cold anymore. If nothing unexpected happened, but something did, Xia Jiyun would meet Li Xuanyo, who would sell her out and count money for others. Seeing his wife being coveted by others infuriated Xie Tianming. The woman felt cold after falling asleep. The pretty boy quickly embraced her and wouldn't let go. Though she cared deeply inside, she remained stubborn on the outside. But by daybreak, Yunwan hadn't noticed anything unusual. Her mind was full of plans about developing delivery business with her followers. Little did she know that behind them, as they continued their journey, a familiar figure was watching. Xie Tingyun was extremely alert, glancing from the corner of his eye. He threw leaves toward the bushes. The powdered-faced man was instantly killed, dying before he could react. Yunwan felt something was off about the man, wondering why he suddenly stopped walking. Xie Tingyun withdrew his gaze, telling her nothing happened, not to worry about it. Yunwan didn't press further. After some thought, decided to first find a qi practitioner in the city. If they made more crystal mirrors, they could assign tasks and earn some money. They soon reached Wangshan City, the most prosperous of the 5 mountains. But Yunwan said she was hungry, suggesting they eat before practicing qi, saying it wouldn't matter anyway. Hearing she was hungry, Xie Tianyin couldn't wait to indulge her. Naturally had no objection. But just as they were looking for a good tavern, a familiar figure caught their attention. One was demanding the natural jade mine, saying if Broken Sword didn't spit out what it ate, don't blame him for pulling rank. The other, full of vigor, wanted justice for Broken Sword, declaring he held a precious named sword and wouldn't let anyone speak ill of it. Yunwan found it strange that an old and young man were arguing red-faced in the street. Yet the surrounding civilians seemed used to it, too lazy to gather around. When he got closer, he realized it was that unfortunately Xianyu again, after just a few days apart. How had he fallen so low? Li Xianyu was in a rage when interrupted, very angry, but turning around, he saw it was his super good friend. Unable to hold back, his eyes turned red, and he hugged them tightly, unwilling to let go. Xie Tingyun was very displeased and forcefully separated them. To prevent his woman from being coveted by this brat, he simply stood in front of Yunwan, using his aura to force the simpleton back. Yuan came to her senses and curiously asked why he had become so down and out. Li Shuyo summarized briefly, feeling it was hard to explain. Initially, while returning to East Gate with his junior, they were tricked into the black market and lost everything. Not only did his junior disappear, but he also mortgaged the East Gate in a moment of rashness. Tears flowing as he spoke, he explained he planned to sell some jade jewelry to earn ransom money. But unexpectedly, the sword got greedy and swallowed the old man's natural jade mine. Now that person claims it was the shop's treasure and demands 50,000 taels of gold to settle the matter. Although their sword sect was modest, with just 2 disciples and not much house space. But the sword in hand was the only treasure left by their master. Now he's not asking for great favors, just hoping to borrow some silver. After listening, Yunwan felt something was strange. What heavenly jade could be worth tens of thousands of gold? It must be a scam or extortion. She turned to ask the old man where his natural jade mine came from. The old man tearfully began playing for sympathy, saying the item was mined from small Tianfeng. But the place was later occupied by monsters, and this only remaining or was exchanged for his young son's life. Li Xianyu, seeing the other's tearful state, became flustered, saying they could just pay compensation. Just stop wailing and making people anxious. At worst, they could help go to small Tianfeng, eliminate the monsters occupying the treasure site, to make amends. The old man wasn't stupid. If you run away, wouldn't he become the fool? Unless you're willing to keep your friend detained as hostage. Yunwan looked at the pitiful Li Xuanyo, while seemingly reluctantly agreeing. She was actually plotting a scam. Noticing Xie Tingyun's unwilling face, she directly stated they'd return before dark. It wasn't far anyway. Besides, look at this unfortunate guy. Doesn't he look like a house? Xie Tingyun looked over, already guessing they'd be scammed again, even counting money for others. He suddenly felt sympathy for this big sucker Li Xianyu. Yunwan gleefully calculated, first resolve the extortion matter, then go to Lu Feng to redeem his junior brother. Wouldn't that mean gaining their house and 2 free laborers? Xie Tianyin kindly reminded that things weren't so simple. They must be cautious. Because Wangshan City had a famous nickname, Fraud City. Yunwan was originally to be kept as hostage, but to get shelter for the half-demon sooner. She immediately decided to go to small Tianfeng with her bodyguard boss to eliminate the monsters occupying the mine. But Xie Tianyin said not to set sights on small Tianfeng. 200 years ago, the mining city was ungoverned and the land was fertile. But later black markets and gambling houses were established, becoming a place where all 3 races had to follow rules. So here everyone could scam, and everyone was scamming. Countless people lost everything daily. That's how it got its name, finally becoming known as the City of Fraud. One didn't understand and asked what happened next. Xie Tingyun couldn't help but chuckle at her question. Later they provoked a tough opponent who single-handedly disrupted the entire city's atmosphere. Even the city lord was forced to seek help from the East Gate. Finally, for the sake of the citizens' survival, both parties agreed to compromise after negotiations. Though Wangshan City appears peaceful on the surface now, underground, dirty dealings still continue. Yunwan pondered thoughtfully, nodding in response. If that's the case, that sword cultivator must be quite powerful. Xie Tingyun's lips curled up. He couldn't help but boast, naturally. But that person had no honor, clearly lost money, but couldn't accept it and trashed the place. Hearing himself being evaluated this way, Xie Tingyun's good mood instantly turned gloomy. Yunwan suddenly realized something, caught up and blocked his path. She teased, "That person wouldn't happen to be you, would it?" Not wanting to admit it despite being betrayed by his expression, Xie Tingyun stubbornly claimed it was just a friend he happened to know. Yunwan got more excited, refusing to believe his lies. She grabbed his clothes, insisting on knowing how much silver he lost to get angry enough to wreck Wangshan City. Xie Tingyun grew impatient with the questions and tried to grab her playful hands. But unexpectedly their eyes met and his face turned red. The unexpected warmth at their fingertips made both freeze. In sync, they both turned their heads away, afraid another glance would make their hearts race. Xie Tingyun cleared his throat to ease the awkwardness. Knowing 9 out of 10 people there are scammers, you still want to go? Yes, it's perfect to first inquire about small Shanfo. After all, to help the unfortunate one, we need to hurry and rescue his junior brother. Xie Tingyun stopped persuading. If that's the case, then let's go. The recently fed Supreme Sword was eager, reaching out as it was now time to be ridden, completely welcoming all comers. Indeed, a paid sword works harder. In the blink of an eye, they flew to small Tianfo. As soon as Yunwan landed, she discovered monsters were present. It seems the old jade seller hadn't lied. It's just that Li Xuanyou's sword swallowed someone's treasure, leading to the extortion. Xie Tingyun recognized them as the famous Lu Wushan monsters. But the two places were far apart. How did they appear here for no reason? But that didn't matter now. Taking their monster cores would greatly increase cultivation. If a small fry like you at the chi practicing level consumed a monster core, you might even break through. Yunwan looked at the man, who was just talking but showing no intention to act. So, you're not going to let me go alone, are you? Right? Just you alone? No, impossible. I didn't dare, but Xie Tingyun insisted I must go. Not only was my magic poor, but my movement techniques were also lacking. If you want to become a disciple at Kunlun's sect, but are bad at everything, how will you pass the entrance trials? Besides, if you can't beat me, I won't leave you to die. Yunwan was dumbfounded by his words. But as someone pursuing body cultivation, how could she submit to a mere monster? After an internal struggle, she finally took a deep breath and decided to catch it off guard with a jump attack. Unexpectedly, as soon as she found its weak spot and threw a punch, the monster was hit. Just as she was feeling pleased with herself, she suddenly felt countless eyes staring at her from behind. Oh no, Xie Tingyun, save me quick. But in this crisis, no matter how much she screamed, the man watching from the tree showed no reaction. This top expert of the cultivation world went to great lengths to help Yunwan become stronger. But the woman, not understanding his true intentions, not only wasn't grateful, but called him a pretty-faced dog. The man saw Xie Tianyun encouraging Yunwan to kill monsters for their cores. But she had only dealt in human trafficking before and was truly afraid to be ruthless. What are you afraid of? I'll save you at the crucial moment. Though Xie Tianyun said this, when she actually stabbed the monster's vital point and called for help, the man showed no intention of helping. Yunwan was scared stiff. Even in her panic, she maintained her defensive stance to stay alive, still wailing for Xie Tianyun to save her. But seeing him here, yet remain unmoved, she suddenly realized she had been tricked. Yunwan was drenched in cold sweat. Watching the towering monster approach step by step in her despair, she became calmer than usual. In desperation, she gathered all her spiritual energy into one. She intended to fight with all her might, but unexpectedly broke through her dantian to reach the run and do meridians. So while her spiritual energy was still leaking out, she quickly launched her invincible fist combo at the monster. In that moment, she saw him as that untrustworthy dog of a man. Only by throwing punches wildly could she vent her anger. Xie Tingyun saw the woman succeed as expected, and his usually expressionless face showed satisfaction. You must be exhausted. Quickly swallow the monster core to replenish your strength. Yunwan looked at it, but didn't take it. An inexplicable feeling of grievance made her burst into tears. Xie Tingyun probably hadn't expected her to cry. His hand holding the monster core unconsciously trembled. Never having seen this before, his voice was low and uncertain as he asked why she was crying. Obviously, Yunwan was crying from anger. How could someone she trusted so much change his attitude at the crucial moment? This would be a blow to anyone. The more Yunwan thought about it, the angrier she got. She kicked out and cursed him as a pretty-faced dog. But no matter how she pounded with her little fists to vent her emotions, Xie Tingyun neither fought back nor argued. Yunwan was so angry, she simply turned away to secretly wipe her tears. After a while, Xie Tingyun couldn't help but speak first. If you're done resting, would you rather keep crying or discuss something important? Yunwan replied irritably that the dog of a man better explain clearly, or she would hold this grudge for life. But Xie Tingyun only told her to close her eyes and meditate, without further explanation. Though Yunwan was unhappy with his attitude, she still obediently followed his instructions. Unexpectedly, as soon as she circulated her spiritual energy, she noticed that her special constitution had become rich with spiritual energy. Don't doubt it, you've broken through chi refinement and reached foundation building. See, following my words is never wrong. These words awaken Yunwan to reality. She should indeed learn to face problems independently. Otherwise, this special body would just become a vessel for others to use. Thinking back, she had become accustomed to being protected by the pretty boy, forgetting that this path would eventually end. If one day he wasn't around, how would she protect herself if she didn't become stronger? Xie Tingyun's good intentions hadn't been wasted. Only now did he reveal he had already placed a protective charm on her. He ignored her cries for help knowing she wouldn't be hurt. Yunwan turned to see the footprints on his robe and suddenly felt guilty. Silently suppressing her remorse, she asked if the kicks had hurt. Xie Tingyun paused, joking that as a bodyguard, how could he feel pain? As long as the boss didn't dock his pay, it was fine. This made Yunwan laugh. Just then, a familiar voice reached their ears. How do I keep running into you two everywhere? Yunwan looked up, wondering who it was. It turned out to be Qin Jiyan. So, do you have business here? Nothing major, just received news about monsters here, so I came to check. Before finishing her words, she noticed the monsters beside them. Corpses were strewn everywhere. Xing Jiyan's composure crumbled. Don't tell me you two did all this. Before Yunwan could speak, Xie Tingyun cut in, showing off all the monster cores in his hand. Just killing time, getting some monster cores for Yunwan to eat. Do you have a problem with that? He deliberately fed her, saying to treat them like candy. After all, his woman deserved to be spoiled. Qin Jiyan froze at his words. You really know how to show off. Yunwan hadn't expected him to be so grudge-holding. Even after so long, he was still angry about Qin Jiyan's loose tongue. But she had killed the monsters herself, while others usually borrowed flowers to offer Buddha. How could Xie Tingyun offer what was already Buddha's to Buddha? Looking at his smug expression, Yunwan had an urge to slap that smirk off his face. But she was too tired to care now, just asking the pretty boy to carry her. Xie Tingyun didn't say anything, but Qin Jiyan, eyes red with envy, became quite displeased. She stomped her foot in anger, mocking, being so intimate with a man in broad daylight. Have you no shame? Are you jealous? If not him carrying me, should you do it instead? After speaking, Yunwan jumped onto Qin Jiyan's back. Not bad. Your delicate skin feels quite soft. Qin Jiyan trembled with rage. This young lady has never suffered such humiliation in all her life. As soon as she finished speaking, she drew her sword, ready to kill this annoying person. Yunwan wanted a luxury airship worth 1,000,000 spirit stones. But Xie Tingyun said not to compare too much with others, as there's no end to comparison. But Yunwan wasn't really poor. She had made good money selling jewelry last time. If you have time to hold a sword to someone's neck, don't you have time to pay him back? Qin Jiyan, who had taken a lot from the spider demon but signed an IOU, frowned deeply. Her killing intent immediately dissipated. But that's not a reason for you to bully people. Yunwan pulled out a waste token, looking pitiful. How about I give you this instead? Originally, the white-bearded old man said that Little Tianfeng was a family property, but had been occupied by monsters for years. Thinking of helping the people by eliminating the threat, they accidentally took over your mission. So, the following matters are entirely up to you and your senior brother to handle, and you can take the monster cores back. Qin Jiyan didn't believe anyone could be so kind. Be honest, do you have ulterior motives? Yunwan's thoughts. Even the complicit Xie Tianyun couldn't figure them out. With a mischievous smile, "There's a business opportunity. Wonder if you and your senior brother are interested? If we really make money, not only will the previous snack debt be forgiven, but everyone can make a fortune from it." The debt-ridden Qin Jian became excited at the mention of making money. "But you love to deceive people. Are you really not lying this time?" Yunwan smiled meaningfully. How could she deceive others? She was always the one being deceived. She handed over the monster cores and also passed along a pink handkerchief. Even she hadn't expected the silly girl to be so easily fooled. After all, these were just leftover worthless items, perfect for coaxing a naive junior sister. Though Qin Jian clearly felt she had gained something, she still proudly stated that the snack debt would remain, lest she be accused of being untrustworthy. Yunwan withdrew the document she was about to hand over. Since free things weren't wanted, how could she force the matter any further? However, to afford such a luxurious heirship in the cultivation world, only a young lady from a prestigious family could be so extravagant. Qin Jian made no effort to hide her proud expression. "Where did you come from, you country bumpkin? How have you never seen something so ordinary? It's just an airship. Whatever I want, Daddy has to give it to me." Yunwan's gaze remained fixed on the airship, too preoccupied to argue with her. Indeed, something that could change size at will and last for 1,000 years was truly rare. But seeing Xie Tingyun standing still, "Why aren't you showing any interest?" He replied from afar that he had his wife's sword for company and wasn't interested in any luxury airship. Yunwan laughed at him. "Haven't you noticed your precious sword has already abandoned you and eagerly boarded the ship? What blessing did Xie Tingyun have to end up with such a materialistic thing?" Having no choice, he reluctantly compromised. Qin Jian rarely had a chance to show off in front of her nemesis, eager to display all the ship's treasures. To maintain appearances, Yunwan didn't argue. While eating delicacies, she praised her to the skies. Being on a windless ship while eating was indeed quite enjoyable. "Maybe we should get one too." Hearing this, Qin Jian saw another chance to show off. She sighed. "It's not that I look down on you, but this luxury airship cost 1,000,000 spirit stones to build. Do you have that kind of money?" Xie Tianyin couldn't believe when one had to fancy such an extravagant thing. "One shouldn't compare too much with others. Look, if you sell me, I might be worth 100,000 taels." A poor cultivator confusedly sold the sect and personally delivered his fellow disciple to the mansion. Fang Yunwan, deceiving here and there, prepared to trick some unfortunate souls into joining the flying sword competition, to win money and redeem people. Soon they returned to Wangshan City. Li Xuanyo was particularly excited, never expecting that a fellow cultivator he'd met only a few times would keep their word. The lady's great kindness would be unforgettable for his entire life. Yunwan seemed stunned at this scene, hurriedly breaking free to ask where the old man had gone. "How could he let you off so easily?" Li Xuanyo spoke, his sobbing voice angry. "That old man wasn't a good person either. Just during tea time, he had poisoned his tea. Besides being greedy, he tried to steal his wife's sword when he wasn't looking. If you hadn't appeared in time, he would have been deceived to tears again." Qin Jian's mission down the mountain was to subdue the dangerous beast troubling little Tianfeng. After this incident, it wasn't hard to guess that those sharp-toothed creatures were specifically captured from Ziluwushan by the fraudsters. They probably wanted to lure cultivators to kill monsters, and after their defeat, loot all the remaining artifacts. But they were too clever for their own good, not expecting to meet people like us who were both capable and not easily fooled. Li Wan felt they were 90% close to the truth. The most important thing now was to quickly go to the gambling house, to redeem your junior brother, though Li Xianyu wanted to. "But we have no money." Yuan smiled lightly. He didn't say we had to use money to redeem people. "We can win them back with all our might." Qin Jian grimaced. "I thought it was some money-making business, but it's just tricking people to become gamblers. If I had known you were so ill-intentioned, I wouldn't have sent you back or treated you so warmly." Yunwan couldn't let people she'd worked so hard to deceive just leave. "Though we need money, that's not all there is to gambling. Besides, gambling requires capital and betting, but the way to win money she described doesn't rely entirely on luck. So why are you so angry?" Seeing everyone's doubtful looks, Yunwan stopped explaining. "Anyway, before coming to the black market, I inquired, if we participate in the black sword competition, we'll have a chance to win attractive prize money. Moreover, betting on the right contestants for the top 5 positions can earn considerable snacks." Chu Lin understood somewhat. "So you want us to compete to win money, and also bet on people to double the money. But in such flying sword competitions, there are usually many planted competitors. Who knows how many there are, and if opponents intentionally block during the process, they can make whoever they want win. Yunwan had already considered this point. That's why I said we should participate together. We only need one person to win the competition. The rest just need to clear obstacles. Isn't that a brilliant plan? Chu Ling believed that as disciples of the Genuine sect, they shouldn't become so unprincipled just to make money. Since the monster elimination is done, my junior sister and I should return to report to the sect. Qin Jiyin seemed hesitant. As for principles, they're meant to be broken. But if father learns about her actions down the mountain, would he blame her? Yunwan knew he would gamble for money, so she chose the most pleasing words to say. Don't you think what we're doing is particularly chivalrous? If we don't seize this chance to win now, the powers behind the flying sword competition will continue to harm more unsuspecting victims. Why don't we make up our minds to be righteous heroes, helping others while making some money? Rather than being caught in indecision, Qin Jiyin was just waiting. After Yunwan's brainwashing speech, what's done is done, what's wrong is wrong. Even if father scolds her, what of it? While they were discussing passionately, only Xie Tingyun remained silent throughout. While gently stroking his peerless sword, he knew without guessing that Yunwan had ulterior motives. To participate in the flying sword competition, Yunwan went to the black market to find the boss. She not only made deadly threats, but also signed an unfair contract. Just recently, after Qin Jiyin finally convinced her senior brother to stay and make money together, Yunwan eagerly assigned tasks. Although there would surely be many dark secrets in the money-winning competition, with Chu Lin's strength and Li Xuanyo's intensity, giving their all as backup during the competition should not be too problematic. Tasks requiring both effort and brains, like running errands, leave them to me and Xie Tingyun. We guarantee completion. Qin Jiyin nodded in agreement, hoping senior brother would reluctantly cooperate. Without strong backup, they couldn't win this competition. With his agreement, Yunwan finally felt relieved. She immediately took out her savings, letting junior sister keep it for cooking. Everything depends on this one move. Everyone must give their all, or they'd suffer huge losses. With snacks in hand, Qin Jiyin's eyes widened in surprise. She never expected this seemingly ordinary sword cultivator to be a hidden wealthy lady. At the competition registration venue, Yunwan looked around and sighed. It was indeed a notorious black force. Even the competition backstage had so many guards. The boss, known as Young Master Chiu, said, "Master Li, long time no see. Have you gathered enough money so quickly? Want to redeem someone?" Li Xuanyo gritted his teeth in hatred at the sight of him. But before he could speak, Yunwan interrupted. "Young Master Chiu, how are you? We don't have money, but we have an exciting deal. Wonder if you're interested?" "Oh, I thought Master Li had great abilities, but he just brought a small cultivator who barely broke through." Yunwan got straight to the point. "We want to join the flying sword competition and place an even bigger bet. If we happen to win, you must not only return the lost land and artifacts, but also cancel all other debts. If they unfortunately lose, we'll hand over tens of thousands of snacks in this bag, countless rare monster cores, and if necessary, even throw in Li Xuanyo to wash your feet. How about that?" Young Master Chiu's eyes darkened. Being shrewd, he knew this was a good deal. "If you truly dare, just use your fingertip blood to sign the contract. No turning back." Yunwan chuckled. "Of course." But just as she was about to cut for blood, Xie Tingyun suddenly stopped her. He secretly warned her not to sign this document. Though it looked like ordinary paper, it was the notorious soul-selling curse from the demon realm. If signed with blood, binding the soul in contract, wanting to back out later, won't be as simple as just saying so. Facing this kind warning, Yunwan winked, telling him not to meddle. Blinking at young Master Chiu, as fresh blood dripped, the contract was sealed. "If you have no other requests, you may leave now." As they left, Xie Tingyun's face was dark as coal, not saying a word. Even Li Xuanyo blamed her for being reckless, daring to joke with her 3 souls and 7 spirits. Yunwan knew the dangers, but she hadn't actually used her blood. What they had witnessed might not have been entirely real. She had planned ahead, using only rabbit blood hidden in the dagger. Even so, Chu Ling felt something was wrong. Given the black market boss's temperament, if he discovered the truth, he definitely wouldn't let it go easily. Yunwan dismissed their concerns. Even if discovered, young Master Chiu wouldn't expose this fact, as it would damage his own reputation. Without absolute certainty, he wouldn't dare take such risks. She then handed a bottle of winning treasure to Li Xuanyo. "It's something good. Just wait until the competition to use it." The evening bath felt wonderful, but soon she felt uncomfortably hot all over. The sudden discomfort made her wonder if she was allergic to using too many flower petals. As her legs weakened and she tried to stand from the tub, coincidentally, Xie called from the door, "Wan Wan, dinner's ready." After waiting with no response, despite the lit room, he knew something was wrong. Unexpectedly, when he pushed open the door, Yun Wan stumbled into his arms. She cried that her body felt hot, wondering if she was sick. Not surprisingly, Xie helped her to bed to check her internal energy, but she seemed controlled by something, desperately wanting to pounce on him. She said she might have a fever, but he just suggested drinking hot water. Hearing this, Yun Wan was furious. If everything could be solved by avoidance, her initiative would be wasted. Not long ago, Xie had received the beauty's embrace. But at the crucial moment, he blushed and froze. Suddenly, a coquettish laugh came from nearby, probably from other guests. He didn't want anyone to see Wan Wan in such an undignified state, so he controlled his emotions, hastily carried her, and slammed the door shut. Yun Wan, blushing and helpless, could only nestle in his warm embrace. The moment their skin touched, the uncomfortable heat seemed to ease significantly, more effective than any miracle medicine. Xie placed her on the bed with utmost care, stuttering as he asked what was wrong. If she didn't explain clearly, what should he do? Yun Wan was clearly aroused. Whether it was deception or not, she was poisoned, probably by the flower petals in the bath. Otherwise, why would her heart race so? Normally, Xie would have seen through her deception, but when it came to Yun Wan, he couldn't stay calm. He suspected Xiao had taken advantage and struck while they weren't looking, making her suffer. He smelled all the flower petals, but found nothing unusual. Yun Wan clung tightly to him. "Don't let go, please. I really have a fever. Feel my forehead if you don't believe me." Xie could clearly sense their awkward situation, but seeing her painful expression, he used his spiritual power to check. What he discovered shocked him. How can your little mind be filled with such indescribable thoughts? Yun Wan didn't mean to, but somehow, her body seemed controlled by a strange force. For a moment, I really couldn't help wanting to pounce on you. Xie panicked, suggesting, perhaps some hot water would help. Yun Wan was so angry, she wanted to jump from the bed. "Do I look like I need water?" In an instant, the unprepared man seemed about to be forcefully attacked. No matter how clear-headed he was, such temptation would break his defenses. His heart pounded chaotically. Yun Wan, burning with urgency, wasted no words. She rose up, pressed down, and captured his cool, soft lips. In that daze, the restless heat gradually subsided, and her whole body felt much better. Xie could barely breathe. "Can you wait? I need to check something." Before she could react, Yun Wan went from active to passive. "What's there to check? You're quite wild." But the expected scene didn't unfold. Perhaps he overthought it. He gently touched the cloud pattern mark on her abdomen. No wonder she suddenly lost control. She must have accidentally been poisoned by some unorthodox means. The crimson mark was explanation enough. Yun Wan was confused. "You're looking so seriously. Aren't you going to do anything?" Xie flashed a devilish smile. "What do you want to do?" "I'm ready." Yun Wan was stunned, then felt shy, but her reserve lasted only 3 seconds before she pounced without hesitation. As the poison cloud mark gradually faded, their intimate moment after the passionate encounter seemed to linger. Since entering the Tao, Xie had considered himself above desires, unaffected by women. But after Yun Wan, he had fallen completely, no different from ordinary men. Rather than avoiding it, he dropped his pretense. "So, do you want more?" Yun Wan dared not. Given his constitution, she feared he might accidentally drain her completely. "That was nothing. Quick, try channeling energy to your dantian while it's hot. With luck, you might break through to the next level." Yun Wan obediently complied. Indeed, the post-release feeling was different from usual. But being her first time practicing so intensely, she couldn't control the power well. Unexpectedly, with a boom, not only did the room collapse, but Xie was also heavily pressed beneath her. For a moment, it felt like his lower body might be permanently damaged. In summer, Xie was frustrated. Of all places to blast, why there? The beautiful female cultivator asked the man to teach her energy cultivation. Using too much force, the bed collapsed, and now the victim had to fix it. Yun Wan looked up to see the bed reduced to ruins. Despite her aching bottom, she only cared about asking about his injuries. Xie sat on the ground with a black face, too pained to stand. His condition was clearly far worse than Yunwan's. His handsome face covered in dust. Yunwan covered her mouth, exclaiming, "You're not ruined, are you? What if there are lasting effects on our future descendants?" Hearing this, Xie suddenly stood up, as if proving, "You can say I'm a bad teacher, but you can't say I'm incapable." Yunwan felt extremely guilty, her tone unusually gentle. "I really didn't mean to." Xie couldn't bear to see Yunwan blame herself. He cast a mourning spell, restoring their dirty clothes to their original state. After making sure he was truly fine, Yunwan wrapped her clothes tightly and pointed at the wooden bed behind them. "It's completely shattered. Can it be restored?" Xie appeared confident, but after repairing only half the bed, he embarrassingly ran out of spiritual energy. Facing Yunwan's surprised expression, he calmly explained that she had drained all his power. He was now no different from someone who had failed their tribulation, completely powerless. Yunwan was amazed. "I'm really sorry. I meant to use yang energy to force out the poison, but I lost control and nearly drained everything." "Don't worry about it." Xie adjusted his mindset and comforted her instead, making Yunwan turn into a complete fangirl. She hadn't expected him to be so gracious after such an ordeal. Could this be the legendary kill with kindness handsome man? Seeing her dreamy eyes, Xie pinched her lips gently. "As long as you're okay, I'll be fine no matter what." Those few heartfelt words touched Yunwan deeply. She felt incredibly lucky. "But what about the half-repaired bed? The innkeeper will surely chase us for compensation." Xie said seriously, "Paying compensation doesn't suit you. Since Li Xinyu likes to meddle in everything, why don't we ask him for help?" Soon, the unsuspecting victim was tricked into the room, thinking they were practicing some technique that could even destroy a bed. Lin Wan was already blushing with embarrassment when Xie explained about cultivators' natural abilities. "Oh, so why did you call me here?" Xie lied smoothly. "I heard your restoration technique is amazing. I really wanted to see it. Would that be possible?" As Li Shueyo was about to cast the spell, he suddenly realized something was off. "Aren't you quite skilled yourself? Why don't you use spiritual power to repair it?" Xie laughed at the not-so-bright person. Pointing at the shining work, he said, "This is my work. Can you do better?" The simpleton was instantly motivated. "It's just a restoration spell. I'm definitely better than you." Looking at the restored wooden bed, Yunwan couldn't see any trace of damage. She excitedly praised, "Thank goodness we don't have to pay." Li Xinyu was quite satisfied with his work. "But seeing your expressions, were you two cultivating together?" Xie back stiffened in shock. Thanks to Yunwan's quick wit, she explained they were just having a meal and he was teaching her some techniques, barely managing to deflect suspicion. Li Xinyu chuckled. "In that case, miss, if you need help in the future, you can find me. No need to trouble this moody, pretty boy." Hearing this, Xie wanted to knock his teeth out. "Since when did my secret techniques need your teaching?" Even after being shut out with a bang, the simpleton didn't know what he'd said wrong. Yunwan couldn't help but laugh at the jealous man. "Good thing we didn't slip up earlier. If he knew what your secret technique really was, he'd probably dig up everything about you." Xie smiled silently and left, returning soon with a hot bowl of plain noodles. Though simple, it tasted good. Luwan felt warmth in her heart and suddenly remembered. "Last time on Qin Jian's treasure ship, we had some fine wine. Let's sit and have a drink." Xie smiled. Since Wanwan didn't want him to leave, he'd stay to keep her company. Watching his fair, slender hands take the wine cup, Yunwan felt inexplicably enchanted. She quickly drained her cup of wine, trying to suppress the burning feeling in her heart. Xie naturally noticed something from her rosy cheeks, but tonight she should still sleep in her own room. If he shamelessly let her stay, he feared his body wouldn't be able to handle it. Yunwan's eyes sparkled, and after a moment, she weakly expressed her sympathy. She took out a bottle and said, "This tonic pill is for you. It's definitely good stuff." Xie silently accepted it. Everything was understood without words. For a while, with racing hearts and red faces, they realized they had said everything, yet nothing at all. The man had a restless night, while the woman recovered incredibly well, as if nothing happened. On the day of the competition, Xie spiritual power was damaged, and combined with exhaustion, he looked quite haggard. Qin Jian, focused only on winning the competition, saw the man's poor condition and worried. "Did you not sleep well last night? You look like someone drained your spiritual energy." Before he could answer, the big-mouthed Li Xinyu chattered away. "Miss Qin, you don't know, but they were practicing until midnight, very diligently. We're not worthy compared to them." Qin Jian stared. "You mean they practiced together?" Such an unspeakable matter made her think for a while, before understanding what was meant. Her face reddened, and she almost couldn't help cursing Yunwan for being shameless. I knew you were greedy and lustful before, but I didn't know you wouldn't even spare your pretty boy bodyguard. Yunwan didn't care what others thought of her and continued strutting toward the competition venue. The persistent Qin Jian suddenly grabbed her clothes. Even if you've weakened Xie Tingyun's body without response, what do you plan to do with the things you prepared earlier? Yunwan stopped and opened a bottle. One sniff revealed its purpose, specifically for dealing with dog demons who cheat in competitions. When Qin Jian opened the bottle, the stench was overwhelming. Where did you get this? It's deadly. Yunwan smiled mischievously. Bought it from a merchant earlier. Heard it works especially well against sensitive-nosed dog demons. If absolutely necessary, the stench alone could affect the entire competition field. The slow-witted Li Xinyu finally understood. When it comes to dealing with enemies, your tricks are the best. At the competition venue on Dongwu Island, each round had 60 participants. Among them, divided into heaven and earth groups, only 3 people could win. Yunwan looked at her number tag. Though they were scattered randomly, it wouldn't affect their determination to win the top 3 places. While the disciples were getting ready, some ill-intentioned people took the warm-up time to mock the pair. Though dual sword flying is allowed, you don't need to bring dead weight. Why not let your little lady rest aside? Save her from crying when you lose. Hearing their sarcastic remarks, Xie Tingyun waved his sword in warning. Who are you to speak about my woman? Turning to look at Wan with concern, no need to deal with these low-class disciples. If you haven't recovered well, don't push yourself. I can compete with the divine sword alone. Yunwan didn't care what others said, but Xie Tingyun's reaction warmed her heart. She couldn't help teasing. Actually, I should be saying that. Weren't you the most exhausted last night? Seeing the man deliberately avoid her gaze without responding, she said no more, just hoping the divine sword would perform well after eating the snacks, or they'd all be eating dust later. With the cry of a divine bird, the competition officially began. Chu Lin and Li Xinyu didn't dare to slack off either. If not for others, they should at least fight for their own pride. The Dongwu Island, situated among steep mountains, had unpredictable weather and frequent wildlife. Qin Jian, watching from the side, was truly worried. She feared they might lose the competition by getting trapped due to unfamiliarity with the terrain. The atmosphere around the illusion arena grew more intense, with independent cultivators eagerly waiting to place their bets. But before they could take out their money, a sudden shout to bet everything on contestant Yunwan stunned the crowd. Though all spectators were gamblers, such reckless betting left the independent cultivators speechless. Little girl, you must be new here. I suggest waiting for the young master's subordinates to win, or you might lose everything. Xing Jian was really gambling big this time, just hoping Yunwan would win at all costs. Otherwise, she'd finish off Xie Tianyun, ensuring he'd never get such a handsome pretty boy again. To win the competition, Yunwan had to take out snacks to bribe the divine sword. Seeing the divine sword's loyalty wavering, Xie Tingyun felt heartbroken, thinking she was just burning money. As sword lights cut through the sky, competing cultivators fought desperately for first place. Only the divine sword, having eaten snacks but not working, was in last place. Yet the relaxed pair seemed completely unstressed, becoming the center of attention through their own efforts. Observing cultivators grew anxious for them, thinking the couple was too busy flirting to care about winning. Qin Jian's eyes blazed with anger, wanting to punch them both. The irritating disciple's words made her draw her sword, threatening to shave his head if he spoke another word. The threatened disciple quickly retreated, surprised by the young lady's fierce temper. Qin Jian's head was about to explode from frustration. If Yunwan lost, she'd unleash all her pent-up anger. The cultivators who had completed one lap watched the slow-moving shadows and couldn't help but sigh. If you can't keep up, you might as well go home and have children. Why come out and embarrass yourself? Hearing the constant mockery, the conserving Yunwan smiled calmly. When she took out snacks to feed the divine sword, those who spoke ill would be crushed to pieces. The fool blushed. What, just a few taunts and you're ready to openly bribe with snacks? Yunwan had seen shameless people before. Your ignorance is forgivable, but trying to compete with an ancient divine sword for spirit stones? You're not worthy. With a whoosh, the well-fed divine sword showed its power, flashing past so quickly it didn't even leave a shadow for opponents to see. This sudden revelation delighted Qin Jian. That's more like it. How else could they win first place? Soon, as the whooshing sounds grew faster, almost all competitors were left far behind. When they met again, the cultivator who had suggested going home to have children was thunderstruck, his face frozen in disbelief. Yunwan was overjoyed, wanting to feed all her snacks to the divine sword. Xie Tingyan behind her was heartbroken. Can't you feed it less? You're just burning money. Qin Jian was envious, but what could she say? They had money, but seeing the senior brother nearly in last place, she couldn't help but blush with anxiety. Is he saving up for something big? Why is he flying so slowly? Young Master Chiu, hiding in the shadows, plotted wickedly. Since the opponents were so formidable, it was time to send in some capable forces with extra ingredients. In an instant, several demon dogs filled with evil energy surrounded the pair. With their sharp fangs and teeth, they must be formidable at devouring humans. Fortunately, in this critical moment, Li Xianyu joined the protagonists to help. Now that everyone was gathered, there was nothing to fear. But after just a few rounds, Yunwan discovered things weren't as simple as imagined. The demon dogs' noses seemed unaffected by any sense, moving as nimbly as if they had no sense of smell at all. The image-conscious Xie Tingyun lost his composure, the worst in his 300 years of cultivation. Yunwan stumbled during the race, surrounded by young Master Chiu's demon dogs. Seeing the oppressive force approaching, the angered Yunwan completely exploded. Though the competition prohibited using spiritual power, it didn't say anything about not hitting with bare hands. When the aggressive demon dogs came close, the hot-tempered Yunwan grabbed their tails and threw them away. When Yunwan released gas, she shouted, "Let them fly!" If Xie Tingyun hadn't dodged quickly, he might have been blown away by the toxic gas. Li Shueyo was stunned by the woman's incredible strength. What do you usually eat to become so powerful? But before catching their breath, the controlled demon dogs attacked again. Yunwan, furious, completely lost her composure. Her reflexes unleashed an invincible critical hit, making the scapegoat's eyes burst. Young Master Chiu, controlling everything behind the scenes, sat trembling with anger. Such useless trash. Can't even handle one woman. Yunwan, finally calming down, was unaware she had accidentally hurt the pretty boy. Seeing his unusual head bump, she urgently comforted him. "We're still racing. You need to stay strong." Xie Tingyun's breathing became rapid, uncontrollably hugging her. No matter what Yunwan said, he wouldn't let go. Feeling the sudden heat, she thought the situation seemed familiar. Could he have taken the tonic she gave him, and now the effects were kicking in? Xie Tingyun's irrational hands wandered, his mumbling voice tingling in her ear. Feeling the teasing, Yunwan felt embarrassed. This was a competition with thousands watching. "Please control yourself." As she spoke, a strange liquid dripped onto her neck. She turned to look. The young excess pretty boy was so excited he got a nosebleed. Xie Tingyun, mind foggy, held the petrified Wanwan, ignoring others' strange looks, letting the bright red blood sway chaotically in the wind. The spectating cultivators witnessed such an exciting scene for the first time. This guy wanted to win so badly, he got a nosebleed. If he couldn't get first place, he'd let down the girl dying of embarrassment with him. Seeing they still had most of the course to go, the worried Yunwan took out high-grade snacks, wanting the pretty boy to recover his strength after eating, so they could focus on the race. Xie Tingyun struggled to control his emotions, trying to restrain himself. But after eating the snacks, he couldn't help but lick her fingertip. After this exciting moment, he added, "Wanwan tastes so sweet." Seeing his unstoppable nosebleed, Yunwan said with a trembling voice, "Can you be more clear-headed?" Her hands had just pulled demon dog tails. Not only was it dirty, but there was no sweetness at all. This comment seemed to excite Xie Tingyun even more. How could he be so extreme in his tastes? Fortunately, before the race ended, Xie Tingyun regained his senses. The final result was unsurprisingly first place. Qin Jian, who heard about winning 8,000 high-grade spirit stones, was absolutely thrilled. "Huh! Yunwan was truly a clever little rich lady." But in what should have been a joyous atmosphere, Xie Tingyun couldn't smile at all. His furrowed brows showed complete despair. He couldn't imagine that a prominent figure in the cultivation world would have such an embarrassing day. The suddenly wealthy Li Xuanyo never expected that the seemingly helpful good person was actually an unscrupulous female rogue. While the senior and junior disciples walked on the street, being persuaded to make money, carrying heavy snacks back to the sect, Yunwan, who had been plotting all along, wasn't planning to let it end there. She now had another way to make money. "I wonder if you fellow Taoists are interested?" The recently ransomed disciple heard the hidden meaning and was clearly intimidated. "Thank you, miss, for your selfless rescue. I will never forget this debt of gratitude. But having just escaped the tiger's den, rather than risk entering the wolf's den, perhaps we should part ways here. There's no rush. We have future opportunities." The rejected Yun Wan couldn't help but feel anxious. She had a group of followers waiting to be fed. Though your words make sense, money is there to be made. Since we're at the stone gambling house, why not go in and win some thousands? The low-key Chu Ling was shocked that this woman dared to gamble on stones. Was she afraid the hard-won money would burn a hole in her pocket? Li Xianyu was also shocked by her boldness, breaking into a cold sweat. While flying required skill, stone gambling was pure luck. How could she be so confident about winning? Only Xie Tingyun, who knew Yun Wan's nature, remained calm. After all, he would spoil his woman. Whatever Wan Wan decided, he would support unconditionally. Soon, the controversial Yun Wan strode into the gambling house. If she wasn't absolutely confident, she wouldn't joke around with the money meant for feeding her followers. The rat demon, who praised every stone to everyone, smiled mischievously. "The stones here are all from Small Spirit Mountain, absorbing heaven and earth essence. If you're willing to spend big, miss, you'll definitely make a fortune." But while accepting the principle, and Xiang thought he'd finally found some suckers, it would be a waste of his silver tongue not to fleece them thoroughly. Yun Wan just casually looked around, like the pretty boy borrowing the supreme sword. Seeing through it, Xie Tingyun finally understood Wan Wan's intention. Indeed, distinguishing high-grade spirit stones didn't necessarily require eyes. The gluttonous supreme sword could tell which stones had spiritual energy and which were decorative just by smell. The clever Yun Wan had long planned to use this advantage. When she walked to the natural ores, she just waved her hand casually. The supremely powerful sword was so proud it only looked at high-grade spirit stones. Common ones weren't worth its attention at all. As the rat demon opened one shop treasure after another, his eyes bulged in pain, exclaiming that the miss had amazing eyes and suspiciously good luck. Carrying the heavy load as they left, Xie Tingyun asked, "If you needed money, why didn't you open all the stones inside?" Yun Wan wanted to do that, but if they made too big a scene, the hot-tempered young Master Chiu wouldn't let them leave so easily. Qin Jian, eyes gleaming with gold, never expected the little rich lady to be so good at making money. Her previously disdainful image became one of admiration. Seizing the opportunity, Yun Wan was determined to get the snacks from the naive girl's hands. "If you invest all your snacks, I'll definitely pay you a monthly salary, guaranteed to earn more than now, with net profits doubled." The dizzy Qin Jian heard this and was reluctant to hand over her newly earned money to the woman for safekeeping. "Is everything you said true? We won't have to do anything and still get lots of money every month?" Yun Wan, who was persuading others to invest money, had planned everything. "As long as you dare to bet your money on me, I guarantee you won't lose. How about writing an IOU? Good borrowing leads to easy future loans." Having experienced two big profits, Qin Jian wasn't distrustful. "Since you put it that way, there's no need for an IOU. After I return to the sect, if you need anything, just bring the jade pendant to find me." Yun Wan, keeping her word, didn't want to take advantage unfairly. She happened to have a fragrance pouch to give as a return gift. Li Xianyu, watching Qin Jin leave, felt homesick after being away for days. "Kind and beautiful friend, could you return our sect's deed to us?" Yun Wan, who had orchestrated this grand show, was ready to settle accounts. "I have no money, and the deed is definitely out of the question. I effortlessly ransomed you, yet you show no gratitude?" Li Xianyu anxiously accused. "You're just a rogue. The sect was left by our master on his deathbed. Why do you covet it? How can you just throw us out like this?" Yun Wan, getting a headache from the shouting. "I only said I have the deed, not that I'm driving you away. Let's calmly do business. When we win money, both you and your senior brother will profit." Hearing that Ye could also get money, Li Xianyu became surprisingly interested. "Oh, it's a partnership. Why didn't you say so earlier about using the East Gate?" Yun Wan honestly explained that she wanted to move in with her followers and start a half-demon courier business. But as soon as she said this, the two turned away in disgust. They'd rather save up for the deed than have any connection with the despised half-demons. Seeing Wan Wan in such an awkward position, Xie Tingyun, who had been quietly supporting her, had anticipated this. Though Li Xianyu seemed unreliable, he was once a famous figure in all of Kunlun. If not for sacrificing himself for the Tao, the title of First Sect wouldn't have gone to Kunlun Sect. So his deep-rooted contempt for half-demons, who only knew how to serve their masters and harm common people, was understandable. But not wanting to die for wealth or fall for food, the penniless Li Xuanyo, for the sake of reviving the sect, thought it wouldn't hurt to work with half-demons. The stubborn money-making expert's big brother asked how much they would be paid monthly. Yunwan hadn't expected that even principled men could be practical. Since you true men can be both firm and flexible, I won't shortchange you when we make big money. The half-demons, finally having a place to belong, stopped hiding their feelings. In their hearts, they had already accepted Yun Wan as their master, willing to sacrifice their lives to protect her completely. If nothing unexpected happens, the first season has concluded. Thank you, dear viewers, for your continued companionship. For those who enjoyed the plot, you can look forward to the arrival of Season 2.